solo block.
I thought the Huskers came out and played great tonight. The crowd was really electric tonight. And I think when we made a couple of those defensive plays in the crowd, Harper ran in the scorers table. I just think it just went through the roof. And we just feel the energy. And I just thought our team just came out attacking and attacked all three games and really wore them down, in game 3. So it's a great effort, and we'll take it.
This will be a 4-quarter war. This will be a 60-minute football game. We'll have to count on our guys to go play. There's a lot to be done, though, really, between now and the game. At the end of the day, one thing we try to teach the players is you prepare through the event. It's an old Al Golden saying that, people say the hay's in the barn. We don't believe that. As you get in the game, you see how they're playing, you try to adjust. So, we have a lot of work to do. But so far, the guys have worked hard. Keep picking up steam heading into the game on Friday night.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome in. It is a Thursday. Total domination last night at the Devaney Center. Number 2 versus number 5. Number 2 forgot to show up. Number 5 went with a complete beatdown as Nebraska swept Stanford in 3. And I just chuckled there in the open, boys, because John Cook uses a phrase they always laugh at.
What he refers to his team as the Huskers?
The Huskers.
Yeah. I thought not we played well, but I thought the Huskers played well.
It's not like nothing new. It's just something I always catch.
Yeah.
And he goes, the Huskers played well tonight.
Yeah.
You could just say our team played well.
You're the coach
we
of this
played
team.
well.
Yeah.
Practicing for an after coaching career.
I coached well last night.
Yeah.
It always amuses me when he says the Huskers.
Yeah, the Huskers played well
he's a commentator.
Well
yes. He's a commentator. He's on the Big Ten Network on the little post-game show, Big Ten After Dark or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the Huskers played pretty well. And they did. They dominated Stanford. They kicked Stanford's last night, sweeping them in 3 in a place that is a shrine to college volleyball and is as they like to say, a hornet's nest.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough place to play. That place was rocking last night. Your ears were ringing. And, we don't know if Stanford and Nebraska are going to play anymore. Hey, people have a bad night. We have a bad show periodically.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you are the bug. Sometimes you're the windshield. Sometimes you're the number 2 team and they're really good. You have an off night and you get absolutely dominated. And then to top it off, not only do you come into Lincoln, Nebraska, okay, the showcase of volleyball on a banger of a night of college volleyball across the country, and you get whooped. But then after it's all over, and they got a smug head coach.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who I'd choose if Stanford and Wisconsin were playing.
I was just going to ask you.
For the smugness of the head coach.
Yeah.
But I thought it was appropriate because we don't know if Nebraska and Stanford are going to play anymore.
Yep.
Stanford is like, they're number 1 program. They won 9 national titles. But I thought Nebraska was very nice last night. They kicked them in 3. And then when Stanford got back to the locker room, all the ladies in their locker room stalls had their own personal blow dryer.
For a blowout?
No, for what was on a whiteboard about 6 years ago. Take that!
See, that would have been great. That would have been really funny. If
that would have been childish.
No, that would have been. That's all part of the.
I think we've
the gamesmanship, the sportsmanship.
Haven't the guy that calls his team the Huskers moved on from that?
Yeah.
No, he hasn't.
No.
Hey, you give me a little fist pump there. I was like, screw you, Stanford. That's 2 in a row. Take that, ACC.
You do bring up a good question though, Kevin Handley or Kelly Sheffield. Who would you? Who would you root for in a fight?
Felt bad though for the Stanford coach because the replay system was down initially.
Yeah,
boy, he was heated.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted him to slam his fist on the scores table.
Yeah,
and go nuts.
It's
take his team off the floor. Say we're getting screwed. It's rigged.
Speaking of which, whoever does and I'm sure Larry Putney even mentioned her name, and now the name escapes me. When she is talking to us, the audience, she is just so.
The official?
Yeah, the official, just so pleasant. So like she's talking to. I know she doesn't realize she's talking to an entire audience watching this on television, but she's just so pleasant. It's like, well, thank you. It's not like when they're doing the replays and they come back and, whether it benefits your team or works against your team, it's how you feel about the person. She could tell me that I only have a couple of days to live, and I'd be like, oh, well, thank you. The way that you
is that your response when somebody tells you only have a couple of days?
Well, no, thank
you for letting me know.
When somebody presents it in such a very pleasant way,
watch out for what
I'll
I'm
come
going to
and
say.
get the stuff I left at your house.
Yes, when she was saying that the replay was down, I'm like, well, it's no big deal because you said it in such a very, very even keeled, very proper, professional, but somewhat pleasant manner. So thank you.
Stanford had a clunker last night, but who would have thought they hit 100? Nebraska serve, receive, blocking, all that stuff was good. I push back on anybody that says that was an upset.
Yeah, and that was
upsets. Two great teams playing.
Well, I mean, people are. I think the SMU thing hangs over. No, I think Nebraska last night proved that they have removed themselves from their clunker. Okay, hey, it's sports.
It happened
again. It's life. You have an off day. You know what? When you have an off day, you get back in bed, you sleep, you get up the next morning, and you have a better day.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, life advice. Thank you, Gary.
Boom. I'm Anthony Robbins.
The teeth need to be a little bit more white.
Wait a minute. Is that okay to be Anthony Robbins? I'm not sure if he's gotten canceled.
Not yet.
I haven't followed a lot of motivational speakers.
He hasn't.
I don't think so. He's just a large man with very white teeth.
So sometimes you have a clunker, but when you can't have a clunker against a team like Nebraska that was playing at an extremely high level, I wouldn't call it an upset. I also would do something else. So I don't think as an athlete you go there because there's still a lot of the season to go. Nebraska is really friggin' good. So is Stanford. And now, as we've known, Pitt, who will be the number one team as long as they don't lose the rest of the week. Was it Merritt Beeston after the match said, we're a Final Four team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? You can say Final Four team because you're being nice, because we have to be nice in Nebraska.
Yeah.
But you should say we are a national championship team, because the team that played last night in Lincoln, as balanced as they are across the board, and when they serve, receive, block, and they set AJ in the middle, that's a national championship volleyball team.
Well, they've already taken down Wisconsin and Texas as well. What they've done to this point would serve it well let's see what I did, that they are obviously a very, very good team. The upset part of it too, I agree. If you are a top 5 team, Nebraska had a 5 next to them as well. You're playing in their barn, and you're doing it against a team that has sold out. What is it now?
327.
327.
Nebraska volleyball is sold out 327. Football will have a full house for the 400th time.
Yeah, 327.
That isn't happening at Slippery Rock. I know that.
Team that was preseason top 2, and some polls number 1. That you okay? Here, I'll use the 2 different headlines I saw last night. The email that we got from our good buddy Nate. Huskers strike down number 2 Stanford. I like that. As opposed to the World Herald has number 5 Nebraska volleyball upsets number 2 Stanford in 3 sets. Upset. If Stanford maybe came in with like this ungodly, 2-year win streak, okay, fine. Whoever is behind them in the polls, that's fine. But yeah, nothing about last night says that's an upset when you compare where both of those programs are and what their ceiling is. And as you just mentioned, it's a national championship. That's what both of these programs are capable. So to me, that's not an upset.
They got an attitude. I will say maybe they got players that listen to sports talk radio and they feel a little slighted.
Morning
attitude. That SMU match, again, that was their clunker, and they look entirely different since then. But man, they saved the best performance of the year for last night on that stage, and they were dominating. Just absolutely dominating. And you think about this. This is another indication of, and in a sport where, last week, Nebraska and Creighton went a full 5.
Yep.
Nebraska was up 2-0, just like last night. And they probably learned a lesson there. They kept the hammer down in the 3rd set and swept Stanford. But this is rare in volleyball, and especially when it's 2 high-level teams like Nebraska and Stanford. And the volleyball was good last night. The volleyball was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Is in that 2nd set where Stanford goes on an 8-0 run.
Yep.
An 8-0 run, which Cook did not realize that it was 8-0.
Jesus, it was 8.
And a good response by Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
But even going on an 8-0 run to jump up 10-8,
yep,
Nebraska still won that set.
Right. Against a team like that, you get down 8-0 or an 8-0 run.
That's pretty dang impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I guess Nebraska was technically up when they went on that 8-0 run. But yeah, to a team like that, to be able to overcome that, that's incredible. Where I don't want to say there's any of this with this Nebraska volleyball DNA of you ever accept any type of result. But I think at some point you understand that they're good enough. They might get a set on you that might be it right there. I mean, after they overcome that, erase that, and before you know it, they're closing in on 25 in that second one. You're thinking, I don't think they're going to get beat today.
That's a terrible place to play if you're an opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Like being in that atmosphere last night, you can feel, first of all, it was jacked. Standing room only again. The standing room only tickets are not bad.
Yeah.
Like it's not like an uncomfortable seat.
That venue too. It's not like it's so huge that if you're back behind the action, you're going to be like.
Now, if you were up in the C, you might be a little bit far away, and I still have never been able to make my way to the serve line to sit there, so I can have a lanyard.
It's okay. A lot of people.
I would if I was
familiar faces there.
If I was sitting there, I would talk so much smack. Like, would you get booted if you're sitting in those seats in the Devaney Center and you're just running it? Like when they because when an opponent in Nebraska goes back to serve, they basically are sitting in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Like, what if you were just giving them the business? And you were not like swearing or anything like that, or making it personal, or wondering, you know what? You said Nebraska was in hell in 18. Do you feel like you're in hell now? Like, would you get thrown out? Would they ask you to change seats? Like, why can't, it looks like there's like a little bit older folks that
you got to wear
there.
khakis. Yeah. You can't wear any other pant choice.
Everybody looks like they've done well for themselves.
Yeah. Would you put Josiah Alec right there in those seats?
That's what I was saying. Could you put in the striped overalls and everything? Could you put students on one side? I think that'd be kind of fun.
I don't know.
Joe could be like, "Look, I'll add a tie to."
I did because I'm curious about those seats. I was told what they cost. Probably not going to put students in there. Yeah, I don't think.
Could you do one? Remember we talked about doing one match?
I don't think that 15 hours a week at Chick-fil-A and the union's going to be able to cover those seats.
Well, they've raised minimum wage. No, like you could do. I think you brought this up in a crossover one not that long ago, where you could do one match a year where it's just all students.
Yeah.
And you could play at the old Coliseum, or I'm sure you could pack the Devaney with all students, and then you have free reign of the place, meaning you could be behind the serve lines. Well, that'd be fun.
It was when that crowd gets going, Nebraska feeds off of it, and if you are struggling, it feels like everything is like caving in. But that was Nebraska volleyball at its finest last night. From everything that you've wondered about, because serve receive is a thing, blocking defense. I mean, Seton Jackson, setter in the middle. They should be a song. Somebody should make a song about that. But the other thing, they're so balanced. And then you get giddy because Nebraska not only is really good at the top, like with their older players like a Krause and a Beeson, but man, their sophomore class is a banger. They've got so much talent in their sophomore class.
When you mentioned Andy Jackson, so the part, you always look for signs. I do this a lot, whether it's football, baseball, where you know that you got the home field or home court advantage and the crowd is playing into it. There was a moment, and this was, one of many great defensive plays, but it was early in the first, and you probably know the one I'm talking about, where they set up Stanford on the outside. She just hits a missile, and somehow Beeson keeps it alive, and then they go right to the middle of Andy Jackson. It almost looked like it was like a tip dunk, where high points it just, and it was just a thing of beauty to where I'm thinking to myself, how did it look like she caught the ball at the high point and just threw it wherever she wanted to, because that's how fluid and quick. And the fact that Beeson saved that, they weren't necessarily in a great position, but that's that defensive effort that they were talking about. So the other part about last night, which of 2017, I brought this up after they'd lost to SMU, because I thought, well, hey, 2017, that was the last time they'd lost to a non-Power 5 team. That year obviously led to a national championship as well. This is kind of eerily similar as far as what Nebraska did following that in the type of schedule that they had after that. So I was looking this up last night. So after Nebraska loses to Northern Iowa in 2017, they they went to Penn State, who was ranked second at the time. They sweep them. Then they host Minnesota, who was number 3 at the time. and they sweep them. And then following that, they hosted Wisconsin, which I think was like, okay, so yeah, it was on September 30th. They host Wisconsin, who was 7th at the time, and they won in 5 sets. The response that they had from that loss to Northern Iowa, it's very reminiscent to when you look at the schedule, start with Creighton, and Creighton being a top 10 team and how good that was. Then you sweep the second-ranked team in college volleyball. Then what they have this Sunday as well against Louisville. It's a very similar schedule as far as ranked opponents after losing a match like that. Goes to show you, again, for coaches that can get their attention, get his team's attention, and probably has it amongst his team himself that that's just not acceptable. You don't lose like that, and you will make sure that that is something that you use as a source of frustration, but you get better from it. Very similar to 2017, and again, we'd take 2017's result.
You know, the Tuesday night in the Metroplex was a clunker, but I think we have to step back from it and go, man, SMU might be actually pretty good. I mean, that would be the difference.
Who did they beat? Was it
because they're ranked? They're ranked now.
Was it Baylor that they beat? Following that up too, who was ranked? Yeah. So, yeah, it's probably a little bit different than the Northern Iowa because Northern Iowa never was ranked that year. I don't even know if they ended up winning the tournament.
The best teams in the sport, if they have an off night and they're playing a team that is not bad, you can get beat. But the sport, I said this yesterday, the sport before teams get into conference play, they will go anywhere and play anyone. Like I was looking at Stanford's schedule, who they played. I mean, Stanford had that's what makes it even more of like, oh my God, Nebraska's domination last night because Stanford has played a very difficult schedule and they have beaten some of the best. But last night in that sport, and Wednesday nights have become the night of the sport for volleyball. I mean, again, Big Ten Network has elevated that sport, but TV has also helped and great matchups. So last night you had 3 versus 1, you had 2 versus 5, you had 4 versus 11, you had 8 versus 20, all on one night. Can you imagine? We only get that once or twice, like in the fall in college football, one of those Saturdays.
That'll be October 12th.
In college volleyball, you get that during the non-con on a regular basis, and it's great for the sport. They own a night of the week. And last night, the schedule was like one of the best schedules of college volleyball, I think, in a long time, maybe ever. And again, that sport is on the uptick, and so is Nebraska, and that was domination. So I don't know if we'll see Stanford again. That'd be nice. I mean, it's 2 of the best of the best. Yeah, iron sharpens iron. But that was fun last night. I mean, when Nebraska is rolling and they're in that building, there are very few things that bring pleasure to Husker fans than that. Maybe Dylan Ryle will be in there again,
as you knew he would be too.
Hey, the kid should just take online classes. He's a celebrity, and he likes to support fellow student athletes.
So, when they're introducing the starting lineup and they all throw out the little mini volleyball out there, do you think they could have some role where Dylan, before they do starting lineups, he can throw out like the ceremonial, like a little mini volleyball too? I just feel like he needs to be part of like the game flow. He wouldn't want to be, but I think he should.
No, I don't think he needs to.
He supports everything.
I mean, that program they're rock stars.
Yeah.
Just the reaction, like when they come on the floor from young fans. I'm always amazed. It's a kudos to the history of that program and the impact they have on people. And then they're really good. I mean, that first and foremost, that helps. But they just have a connection with a fan base, like a strong, loyal connection that you finally, if you're a Nebraska volleyball fan, you feel like, I've always gotten my return on investment. That's where I think Nebraska football has started to make a switch is you feel like you're wanted. Like the Nebraska volleyball fans, they feel like they're wanted.
Yep.
And they know their role. And it's kind of in the last 6 months or so, and then 3 home games, I started to feel that way about Nebraska football. Ironically, a couple of days before the 400 sellout, on the eve of the 400 sellout, Nebraska football fans finally feel wanted. They've been there. Now they feel wanted.
The volleyball team, was this the Colorado game? I'm trying to remember when they got recognized as Big Ten champs and they got to
shoot the hot dog gun.
Yes,
their
flinger
slinger.
Yes, that's right. So it was that game.
You've reached status when that happens.
Exactly. Not only do you get recognized during one of the very lengthy TV timeouts, but the stadium reaction.
Like a bowling team do that after they won a national championship.
So in the Northern Iowa game, they recognized it was one of the old swimming and diving national championships, and then they recognized the baseball team for being Big Ten champs last year. And it's always interesting because Nebraska fans, or I mean, if there was a national champion from back in the 70s and they're there and it is in any sport like rifle, they're gonna clap. They're gonna recognize them. But you can always tell the popularity of the program or the more recency with how loud the cheer is between the swimming and diving from back when to the baseball team that people I won't remember. And from what I understand, when they showed them and then recognized them in the Colorado game, the volleyball team, like the place just went nuts.
You know, another thing about that program, and I mean, you have to be really comfortable and trust your team. And the guy that says the Huskers, it cracks me up every time.
Huskers played well tonight.
The Huskers set and serve.
It's sort of like a third person, but it's not.
Yeah, but he's done that for a long time. It's just, it's always funny when I hear that.
More coaches need to do that.
Is he lets them, and I think this is where it kind of showed where John made the transition and his program reached the next level.
He's on TikTok now?
Well, he says he's not. Well,
he said last night he was.
So they are clowning him on TikTok.
Okay.
His team is.
Oh, so he's saying because
they created a TikTok account for him.
Okay.
But it's Harper Murray that runs it.
Yeah. He said that she takes his phone and he just tries not to look like
so
stupid.
they kind of pranked him in the most recent one. But here's the thing about that medium. Like I think almost every player is on TikTok. Mm-hmm. And they give you a lot of behind the scenes stuff of what they do.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, 2.5 hours before their match last night, you got players that are making TikToks on the court. And I'm like, well, you have to have, first of all, you have to feel secure enough. And then as a head coach, you have to know, hey, I'll let you do this and have freedom and have a personality.
Yeah.
But when it's 7:00, they announce your name, you better be ready to go and answer the bell.
Yeah. And
there's not a lot of programs that give freedom to their student athlete, I think, like Nebraska volleyball
does.
And
you know why? Because if
the Huskers,
if all goes bad and people are seeing that on TikTok, like maybe you should have been spending less time on TikTok and more game film, more prepping for the game face, bro. But there's very few programs where, obviously that's more commonplace too, but very few programs where the coach team trusts. And I know he talked about Merritt Beeson. He trusts her to kind of execute the TikToks and not Harper Murray. It was a very fun exchange between that and then when he talked about this was a total like football question of, do you pump up music and crowd noise during practices leading up to going to the Yum Center? And he shot that down. He goes, no, I need it quiet. He goes, I tell him to turn the music down. I need it quiet in there.
By the way, was with someone last night that coming up after Sarah Baker Hansen is early this morning. I'm going to share, you brought up music. I'm going to share some observations of somebody that was at football practice.
Okay.
When it comes to music.
Mm.
Yes. All right. So Nebraska beat Stanford last night in 3. Huge match on Sunday. Nebraska and Louisville, which beat Kentucky in 4 last night. So Nebraska and Creighton, huge weekend again. I mean, the sport is delivering. It is one night after another. There are incredible matchups. And last night was awful fun for Nebraska to beat Stanford. All right, coming up on the show, as I mentioned, SBH will join us about an hour earlier. She'll come in at 7. Steve Sipple stops by at 8:30. We will talk to Howard Griffin for the Big Ten Network, former Fighting Illini. He'll join us at 9. Brian Edwards at 9:45. As we're a day closer to Nebraska and Illinois to kick off the Big Ten season. The first non-Saturday home game at Memorial Stadium since... Give it to me.
2000. Wait. Okay. Yeah. 2000 conference.
Keep going. You're in the 2000s.
2001 Rice.
Bingo. When the rescheduled 9/11 game against Rice on that Thursday night. So we'll get into that because I think Mike Riley might be coaching at Memorial Stadium on Friday night.
Oh, it's good to have him back.
It is I have dubbed this the look at us. Who would have thought we'd be here game? Both teams ranked for the first time since 1985.
Can we get that followed up with a hip hip hooray?
So Tim Brando, you're looking live at the Look at Us, Who Would Have Thought matchup.
You should make shirts for that.
All right, the lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. How about that? You know, men's college basketball practice begins now in less than a week.
Yep.
Jeez.
Well, we got a hockey open house on Sunday.
Yeah.
My God.
We need to slow things down.
Yeah.
Things are going way
People
too
are reporting
fast.
to camp for hockey. We got there's a lot of cold weather stuff
Y'all
on
don't
the
get
mind
this.
right now.
I'm excited it's still 90 out.
Yeah.
Now, I've been on a golf course or two of late. We need some rain. Like it hadn't rained Someone told me it hadn't rained like in 3 weeks here.
There was some lightning on the way in.
Really?
Yeah, I
It's
don't
supposed
think
to
it was
rain
anywhere
Sunday.
near.
Okay, so it's coming. But I like that it's 90. It's late
94 today.
mid-September. It's going to be nice. 85 at kickoff tomorrow night.
Yep.
That forecast has jumped all over the place.
Yeah.
I know.
I say no rain. Do not rain on the parade.
Okay, Blind Melon.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Kickoff in 85 is what my weather model is showing you and everyone else, or showing me, I guess.
So Jimmy told me something about Sunday that I'm very intrigued by. I'm just
68. 68
he
and
was
rain.
saying in the 50s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my app is saying in the 50s with rain.
It'll be way too cold around
Oh
here.
yeah, you're right. 58 on Sunday. 58. Oh my god.
There's a reason.
Great day to watch the Cowboys crap the bed again.
There's a reason I didn't move to Seattle. I like my Septembers and I like my 90.
Seattle is. I think it should be very depressing. You know, we've had those
Oh, no,
stretches
no.
where it's like a
Beautiful
week.
city.
Seattle's
Oh, it's
beautiful.
Beautiful city.
gorgeous, but just
Been to
that,
Husky Stadium when it's sunny.
that much rain though.
Mm.
No thanks. We get those little stretches of like 2 or 3 days in a row where it's raining. I get the blues, Gary. I get the blues.
You can go to St. Louis and get the blues.
Screw them.
That's what I like to hear.
We can bring up
That-
do
no,
you
that's-
want to bring up the Colorado Avalanche too?
We have 3.5 hours.
Screw them too. See, I'm already in. Although I got to be careful.
We've switched roles.
because this isn't going to be another banner year for Chicago yet. That's okay. They're building. They're building, buddy.
I'm just listening.
They're just working around Connor Bedard.
I'm just
Just
listening.
supporting the guy.
It's mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in, everybody. I was just informed that it is National Talk Like a Pirate Day.
So which pirate?
Boy.
Chico
Which
Lean,
usually
Michael
leads
Collier?
into really good dad joke type stuff, too.
Bob Walker.
Like we could talk about the socks you're wearing would be Argyle.
Or who gets their movies for free? Pirates.
Yeah, see, okay, good. The less R.
I don't know if that's a good.
No, it is.
I don't know if that's a good joke.
It is. It is a good joke because the less R we can do, and the more just putting the pirate element into it is great.
You know what Pirate's favorite part of the song is?
The hook.
Do you know what 3.14% of the sailors are?
Pirates.
Wow, you must be a dad. What did the first mate see down the toilet?
Oh, I feel like this is going to really, I don't know. What?
The captain's log.
Okay, that's good.
We'll play some good pirate music later on because their favorite type of music is rum and bass.
Oh, I like
Thank
that.
you.
We
Thank you.
could just talk about Paul Skeens all day, too.
What do you call a stupid pirate?
Yes.
I don't know.
The pillage idiot. Well, you know, because we're inching closer to full depression around here with the winter coming.
Yeah.
You know what pirates wear in the winter?
Is this Argyle socks?
Long johns. Jimmy, you know why the pirate bought an eye patch? Because he couldn't afford an iPad.
Okay, I got one for you. This one was...
One more, we're done.
Okay, I got one. This is a good one. What is the favorite letter for a pirate in the alphabet?
R.
You would think R, right? But his true love be the C.
Well played.
Oh.
Well played. That's a good
Oh.
one to end on. So just take these dad jokes and share them with
Way
your
to go.
your people at work. Yes.
All our kids
Mhm.
listening right now.
Mhm. Who else is fired up for a
A little bit
day
better
before a
than
football game?
yesterday's first segment about lube.
Oh, yeah.
This was
I
wholesome.
forgot about that.
I didn't.
I forgot about the freak off.
Hey, at the Marty Cordero roast tonight, I have a P. Diddy joke.
Oh, no. Well, it's topical. In more ways than one.
Be very interesting this time tomorrow morning about the reaction.
The Storm Chasers
goal-
will be airing on some other station.
My goal is to make the Tom Brady roast look PG.
Mhm.
So anybody that's going to be at the Marty Cordero roast tonight at the Omaha Press Club,
You're in for one.
just prepare yourself. Remember, we're friends.
Yep. You got to start off by saying, hey, no offense. With that being said, here we go.
Hey, do you guys, the discussion yesterday about Brett Bielema, the head football coach at
Which part?
There's a lot of
We had a lot of things
parts in
with
it.
Brett Bielema.
I think we also have to recognize that he's only 21-19 at Illinois, and I believe that when the game is over on Friday night, he will look at Dante Dowdell and say, "Man, I'm jealous. That looks like an Illinois running back. That looks like what an Illinois football team should look like that's playing for Nebraska." Haven't changed my opinion, by the way. I think Nebraska will win and cover. But looking at Bielema, because I think Bielema did it to himself last year. I think Bielema, if Bielema is Bielema, first of all, I think he'll prove a point. They'll run the football, or they should. And if he gets into a 4th and goal situation,
Yeah.
he'll get in the way and he'll say, compared to last year, we are going to score. We're going to run the football.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about him because a guy that's been around that long, but is only 21-19 at Illinois, and the guy on the other sideline now in his second year who has a winning record now at Nebraska, people forget. It doesn't happen very often that the head football coach, when they take the field at Nebraska, has a winning record.
Yeah, he's 8-7.
Overall.
Mhm.
Overall.
Mhm.
It hadn't happened since 2017. Well, Rule's first year,
Yeah.
they got above
Right.
500, but you have to go back to 2017. You know, Frost never had a winning record,
Nope.
which is mind-boggling, but it is what it is. So Bielema is 21-19, and I think about his career that was at Wisconsin and what he did at Wisconsin.
Mhm.
But do you guys think that Russell Wilson changed the perception of Brett Bielema?
Yeah. Yeah, because it was and I don't know if it changed the perception, because then what you kind of learned, it was such a one-off for the type of quarterback that he typically had that.
Because they haven't won.
No.
So Brett Bielema without Russell Wilson, again, I would rather have better quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks make the world go round, and if they're really good, they help you win. But Bielema, post Russell Wilson, hasn't won more than 8 in a season.
Okay, now I get what you're saying as far as what they've accomplished since the Russell Wilson one. Yeah, because you think about some of their better teams; those were not the Brett Bielema teams, and even quarterback play like Alex Hornibrook. I never thought was a good quarterback, but that wasn't a Brett Bielema guy either.
So is Bielema in the category of Mike Riley? Good, not great.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because the last 8 years, Bielema's had 4 years where he's been above 500, and he's had 4 years when he's been below 500.
Yeah. And that was the exact Mike Riley resume to a T, that if you were doing what everybody was doing when we got the announcement that he was going to be the head coach, you looked at year by year and you would see a 5-7 season. Every now and then you'd see a 4-8 season, but then you'd see that occasional 9-win season. And then you'd see maybe even back-to-back 9-win seasons, but then it'd go back down to a 4-win season or a 5-win season. And so you're always trying to make sense of, I know a lot of people wanted to talk themselves into, but those were the resources in Corvallis. Think about the resources he'll have in Lincoln, and he'll be able to do that. For Brett Bielema, you're right. With that Russell Wilson team that wins a Big Ten title over Michigan State that year, what they were able to accomplish, and then compared to when he goes over to Arkansas. Again, I'm sure there's excuse making of, but that was he tried to impose a certain type of brand in the SEC where there were just too many teams that are better at that brand in the SEC physically. And so then he comes back to Illinois, where he, mind you, has done some good things. The year that he thought the guy is basically committing roster suicide by saying, you guys all should probably go into the transfer portal. And the following week, they go out and beat Penn State. I think there is a method to his madness. But as far as his record, I think that's probably a really good comparison. Two completely different personalities. But as far as just from a record standpoint, I think that's probably very spot on.
It's 21-19 in Illinois. He has a brand. Whenever you think of Brett Bielema, you're going to think the team is tough.
Yep.
But they are never world beaters. But they might jump up and beat somebody they're not supposed to, like they did in 22.
Penn
so
State.
that's why I keep saying, is Mike Riley on the other sideline?
Yeah, because
a
Mike Riley.
Larger and younger Mike Riley coaching against Nebraska on Friday night.
Because outside the record, but is what you just said there. There's always that game or two that Mike Riley would get. Even in a team, even in a year where a team was maybe a 6 or 5 win team, they would pull that one upset. And of course, Nebraska in 2015 did that against Michigan State.
How should Bielema feel, you think? How should Illinois feel? They're going to walk into the game tomorrow night. And the team across the way that's playing at home has the better coaching staff, has the better talent, has the better scheme, and plays their brand of football better than the team that's their brand of football.
I would imagine what they're seeing on film is a different team. I think this is more hope because I don't think they're seeing the evidence of it in 3 games, but I think the hope is that can we get them in a situation that they can be same old Nebraska? Can we be in the 4th quarter with them and see if they're same old Nebraska?
I mean, that's tough to do, isn't it, after last year?
Yeah, because they
as I've referred to it, Nebraska, Illinois at Illinois.
Or out Bielema, if you want. I mean, that was the whole part of it is I think that's why I think you're clinging to some type of hope that there's some remnants of that or what happened to Nebraska in November. Maybe there's still some of that because I think everything you see on tape from the quarterback position to the defense even being better than they were a year ago because that defense dominated Illinois a year ago, that it's probably more of I hope their mentality still has a little bit of that in them because everything else on paper says that this is a far better team than what we even saw a year ago when we got beat.
I think he will say, man, that 23 for Nebraska is a guy that I'd love to have at Illinois. He's my kind of running back.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. Just looking deeper into what they've done this year is what they have a 6'3", 250-pound running back. What are they doing with Fagan?
He's carrying, 3 games now, not even averaging 20 carries a game right now. And again, with a offense and a physical brand of football, when you have a battering ram, very similar. I don't want to compare the skill set, but we're talking about an FCS running back compared to a Power 4 running back in Fegan compared to what Northern Iowa brought up, but very similar size. Mm-hmm. But the difference is Northern Iowa is going to, just go. That's off brand is what I would say. And maybe it's just because they don't feel like they've got the offensive line. I'm not sure. that is very un-Brett Bielema to have the type of physical type of player like that is averaging, 13 carries a game, right around there, 13 carries. And the only time I would say, okay, that makes sense obviously in Brett Bielema's time at Wisconsin when we saw that in the Big Ten Championship when they had the three-headed monster. They don't have that. Now, there were years, even in Chase Brown's first couple of years, they had some good running backs. And I brought him up yesterday. I was surprised that Reggie Love didn't get as much.
I did like Reggie Love.
Yeah, and he didn't get that many carries last year. He wasn't used very much last year as well. So it's a good question that I think goes even back to last year.
Here's the thing, and why I stick with what I said yesterday is I think Nebraska will win and they will cover. Jimmy, KU ran for 186. KU ran for almost 6 yards a pop.
I'm trying not
in
to
that
cuss.
game. Remember, that was a 6-point game where KU ran for 186 and turned the ball over 4 times.
Because they stopped running the damn ball. Get to 2nd and 2. Throw a wide receiver screen. FML.
It was 3 interceptions. Pick 6 didn't help.
Yeah.
No.
But I
On
can't.
a whiff block.
When I'm looking at this game, the number I stop on is that in their only matchup against a Power 4 team, they allowed KU to run 33 times for 186 yards.
And they only ran
6 yards a
34 for
pop.
79.
And the thing that I at least feel I trust about this coaching staff is they don't abandon that. That I think is obviously huge in this game because the variety that they can
Dowdell
throw
had a
at
big
you
game.
as well. Yeah, like Dowdell, but also
Gonna hurt people.
Because Devin Neal Devin Neal he went over 101.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because
He was like 7. I think he was 7 yards a carry.
did
Yeah.
Jalen even run that much?
Not in that
In
game.
that game, yeah,
I think there were
last week
more
they
some
did.
sacks.
Yeah.
But then they decided, we're gashing them. Let's just stop doing that and lose.
Yeah,
I think that was a collective decision.
So,
Jeff Grimes, the new OC, was like,
yeah, we're good.
you know what?
We're good.
I got to be back in Lawrence for a thing coming up at 8.
Yeah. Let's just get this over with.
and that's a part of where we've seen in previous years where Nebraska maybe had something working and they just couldn't help themselves. They got away from it, whether it was running the football or they had something in the passing game going and then, vice versa. That I would say that it's an offense that I think understands its strengths right now. And so the part of if you're having success running the football and all of a sudden you get away from it and just become, pass happy, I don't think that first of all, you got a better quarterback if you're in a position that you do need to throw the ball maybe a little bit more than what you planned. But secondly, I think it seems between Satterfield, between Glenn Thomas and Donovan Raiola, I feel like they understand their strengths and they're a little bit more in sync with that too, that you wouldn't all of a sudden abandon something that's working very well too. And I think without question what that defense is giving up, that's going to be a big part of it.
Very much on board. They're going to cover.
I think they will be very creative in the run game tomorrow night. We'll ask Steve Sipple this. Howard Griffin with a little bit more insight.
He ran the ball
He did.
in the Super Bowl,
They don't run the ball very well in the interior of their offensive line.
which is weird for a Bird team.
But in the back end, that's the area where I think they could win the football game. I only think Nebraska loses this game if Nebraska does it to themselves. They got better coaching. They got better talent. They're playing at home. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The back end for Illinois could cause problems. Nobody has thrown for over 150 yards against Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you don't have to. Maybe you don't have to. You just run the football and keep running it and running it and running. Play Big Ten football and say, you know what? We're playing Illinois.
Yeah.
We want to show you we're Illinois.
Get the tight ends going.
Right.
Too.
I mean, if you look at a stat line that you churn out over 200 yards on the ground and say Dylan throws the ball 15, 16 times, he's efficient, and you're looking at about 135, 140 yards, maybe at the average, I still think the score is going to reflect that, and you're going to like it. You're going to like that
So
result.
you're still Jimmy's on my side. You're still Nebraska.
I like your
Are
score.
you covered?
I'm still covering, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good score.
I changed my score though.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you go up or down?
I'll save it for tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We got to have something.
72-3.
All right. Sarah Baker Hansen going to start.
It's going to be
It's not.
Nebraska,
Hey.
Texas
It's
Tech.
going to be a good game.
If it
but they'll
If
cover.
it was 72-3, I'm just going to play along here for a moment.
You're going to start Monday's show at 4?
Nebraska won't be going to a bowl game.
They'll be going to a college football playoff.
Yes.
I mean, technically, it's a bowl game. They'll be going to multiple
It
bowl
might
games.
be hosting at that point.
SBH is next on 1620 The Zone. This is especially for our New York listeners, where our next guest is a big fan of their cuisine. She joins us an hour early this morning. Sarah Baker Hansen joins us. Good morning.
All of our New York listeners.
Yes.
More than you think. More than you think.
Maybe there's like 2.
Oh, I mean, we might have 3.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, I got a relative.
3? Okay.
I got family that live out there.
I got an uncle there. He's in Nebraska though.
It's 8 o'clock out there. They're bustling. So, tune in.
Let's because I don't think, and it probably because it might be just a waste of your time. You've ever gone to Epley and you travel quite a bit, so you're in and out of Epley. You've never gone to Epley and said, you know what, this would be a great place to do a food review with the collection of restaurants there. Yeah. But what was your reaction to this beautiful community that we live in with this airport that is under construction, but it's going to be beautiful in 3 years? The announcement the other day of the blend of local restaurants that are going to be past TSA at Epley Airfield.
Well, I think like a lot of people, I was really excited to see the lineup that they chose. I just felt like they chose such a good mix of places. I was very cool to sort of see, I'm sure a lot of restaurants applied to be in there. I'd heard through the grapevine several places that had applied that actually weren't on the list. So I know the competition was pretty tight. I think probably like all of Omaha, I was most excited to see Block 16 in there.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to ask you specifically about them. I know you have a good relationship with the owners there. I'm curious on how, because living out in Northwest Omaha, I've always wanted to see a Block 16 a little closer. Now knowing that they have a second location and it's going to be at the airport, I know that they don't take that lightly as far as having a second location. So I'm curious if you know of how that came about, what the overall attraction for them to do it at the airport as opposed to maybe somewhere out west, and how that plays a role there.
I did talk to Paul a little bit, Paul Urban, one of the owners who owns Block 16 with his wife, Jessica. And he sent me the little graphic about 10 minutes before I saw it on Facebook. And we were talking, and his comment to me, which I think he would be okay with me sharing, was one step closer to retirement.
Okay. Yep.
And so, you think about it, like you open a restaurant, we've talked so many times about the risk involved with that. Like, Block 16, where they are downtown in Omaha, they just sort of found this secret sauce, right? They opened very quietly. They didn't make a big deal out of it. And over the years, they've just done what they're so good at, which is make fantastic food and make creative food. Yeah. And, people continually want to go there because of the reputation that they legitimately have earned since they opened. And so, you think about opening in West Omaha, every time I look at the comments on a Block 16 post, I think there's at least one person requesting a West Omaha location, which makes you think that it would do well. But, you think about the airport. If you have a location inside the airport, you're going to have kind of a constant 24-hour, almost 24-hour, guaranteed audience from like very early in the morning until well past the dinner hour. And so I can see why, these restaurants would want to be in there. I can see, Pitch is already in there. I was also very excited to see the Mill opening a location. Nothing against, Starbucks, but I thought that was going to be really cool. The Mill is, of course, one of my favorites. And I also thought that the bookstore featuring the Bookworm was such a cool idea, even though that's not food. What a cool thing to have in the airport. And of course, Runza. Gosh, how many times do you or have you talked to someone in the world of athletics who has never heard of a Runza and somehow tries one on a video? There's just so many times that people talk about Runza related to Nebraska. And really, when you look at this whole group of restaurants and kind of what they're trying to do, it's so much more representative of what Omaha is as a food city. And that just made me really happy.
Who would be their target audience? Like, we all know of Block 16 and we've been there, and I hope their airport location looks exactly like their location on 16th and Farnham, is that it's small and it's kind of cramped and there's not a lot of place to sit, because that's the OG. But what is there, like at an airport, when you are a restaurant like that, which is so local and you kind of make a national move to be in an airport, who is your
Yeah.
target audience?
It's interesting. I think it will be very, I mean, one of their big attractions at their downtown location is their daily specials, of course.
Mhm.
And I don't know what they're going to be doing, and I don't, necessarily want to speak for them, but it will be really interesting to see. Will it be a menu of classics? Will they create some new menu items that are only available at the airport? Like, I can totally see them doing that. Will they sort of adjust their concept for people being more on the go, having to catch a flight? I mean, if you're going to go to Block 16 in downtown Omaha, you need to invest a little bit of time in that. Not because the food takes a long time, but because the line is long. And so, I think there will be some adjustments. Now, what those will be kind of remain to be seen. It's interesting because on the one side of the airport, Pitch has kind of already, been in there for a while, and they're obviously going to stay in there. And they've adjusted their concept from what they do, in their brick and mortars in Dundee and West Omaha. So it'll be interesting to see what those concepts end up looking like, and how similar or different they are from the ones in the city.
Well, and one thing that intrigues me, and I just saw this comment in our stream from MJ, and you mentioned what'll be very unique for them is that you'll essentially be open from morning to well past dinner. So if there could be a breakfast
I mean, are they going
option,
to have breakfast?
yeah, and that's what MJ's asking.
Yeah.
And for me, never experiencing that at Block 16, I have that built-in confidence that if they do, it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, that will be very interesting. And I can see over the years they've done sort of breakfasty or breakfast style specials. I mean, I can see them doing like an absolutely killer breakfast sandwich down there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can imagine, doing, perhaps like some new special burgers, which they're already adding. They're really famous for their fun fries. I can see there being, a version of those at the airport.
They've done chicken and waffles before too, right? If I remember correctly.
Yep, and they do excellent fried chicken.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that being a thing. So I just think there's a lot of fertile, ground for them to explore in that location. And, Runza being down there too, I wonder, they did test that breakfast menu, which I never got to try, but, maybe that'll be a fixture in the airport. So I don't know. It's kind of exciting to think about so many local restaurants kind of having this opportunity to open. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like, it feels kind of to me like when we talk about restaurants opening in food halls, and there's less risk involved, it feels kind of like that. And so I really hope it's successful, and I cannot wait to dine there on my way to wherever, perhaps New York, maybe somewhere else.
We had a listener ask a question. They are new to Omaha. How big a deal is Restaurant Week, which is currently going on in Omaha?
I love Restaurant Week, and I always try to dine out. Matthew and I actually dined out twice this week. And we did Restaurant Week menus at both places. And I think, it's one of those kind of fun things where it always encourages me to go places I haven't been in a while, or, I kind of look through the menus and see what looks intriguing. And we went over to Jay Gilbert's because they had on their entrees list A5 Japanese Wagyu. And so I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of cool," and also very not something you would see on a $50 pre-fee menu. So we went and tried that, and again, something you don't see every day, something that's not on their regular menu. And then we went out to La Voltaire because we hadn't been out there in a while. Wanted to check it out, and both restaurants were very crowded. Lots of people doing the 3-course pre-fee. It's a lot of fun. I mean, you end up eating probably more dessert in the week than you would normally. But I think it's a lot of fun. I think, people do hear about it. And I just love the idea that it's kind of varied and different every year. The same, but different in terms of restaurant menus and sort of specials.
Oh, and you mentioned the dessert because I remember when my wife and I went to a couple places. This was a few years back, but I remember going to Mahogany, and obviously I was very excited about the steak and everything that Mahogany for, but it was actually the dessert that I never would have ordered there because by that time you're full anyway. But I almost feel like you mentioned the amount of desserts you're going to have. It's almost for a lot of these restaurants has a chance to showcase that. Where I don't know. I know some people are 3-course meal people, but I feel like by the time when they ask you that question, did we save room for dessert? You're saying hell no. So I feel like
yeah.
this is a good way to showcase dessert.
I really do think that. I mean, I haven't thought about it that way, but that's 100% true. I'm much more likely to be exploring like the starters or, the small shared plates, the appetizers, that kind of thing versus the desserts. But I will tell you that the absolute massive slab of carrot cake that you can get at Jay Gilbert's, not something I would normally order, but it was a big hit with our table. And I agree. Like a lot of times at steakhouses or finer dining places, unless I'm at Dante, where I always save room for dessert because I love their butterscotch budino, I'm not as likely to order dessert unless it's a special occasion or somebody's in town or whatever. So the restaurant week menu, you're right, is a good way to kind of explore what might be out there and that you haven't had before.
Sarah Baker Hansen joining us. Now that we've known each other, and I can tell the excitement in your voice when we talk about certain places, and I can tell when you write a review how excited you are. Now you give proper credit and you don't ever let on that, man, this was a bad experience, but I'm gonna write a review. But I can tell when you're really, really excited. Your recent one on a place in Ralston that serves dumplings, I think you were so excited about this being here and to write this review.
I was excited. I've been excited. The moment I heard that Dumpling Empire was opening, to be perfectly honest with you, I was preparing myself to be disappointed because I've been waiting such a long time since a trip to China that Matthew and I went on almost, more than a decade ago when we first got to try soup dumplings and coming home and just wishing for all that time that we had them. And we finally have them. And Dumpling Empire is doing them the right way. They're making all the dumplings from scratch. They're steaming them. Some of them are fried. They're just really good. And over those 2 visits, I was so excited just to eat there and try them. And I haven't been back, but I cannot wait to get back and try more of their menu because it like I said in the review, the dumplings are really good. And if you haven't had them before, you should definitely go try them. And I was also so pleased to see and try so many other dishes on their menu that were also really good, and perhaps some things that some Omaha diners haven't had before.
What's the backstory of Dumpling Empire?
I did talk to the manager briefly on the phone, and he basically told me that they wanted to bring soup dumplings to Omaha, that they sort of realized that no one else was doing it. And so they have a whole staff in there every day that when you walk in, you can see hand rolling the dumpling wrappers and filling them with various, types of fillings. And they're also doing hand pulled noodles, which I think is another thing that's pretty rare in Omaha. And they're doing the noodles in this just really fantastic kind of chili oil broth. That's great. I think, they're invested in the craft of making the dumplings. And I think that goes a long way toward the quality of the finished product.
Well, it's interesting, Sarah, because the uniqueness of just having a restaurant specific to that. But I'm assuming that there are places in the country that this is maybe more common, that you do see more restaurants, or is this, as far as kind of a standalone in really any region?
No, I think there are a lot of cities that have dumplings. Any city basically that you can think of that has a Chinatown. You can find soup dumplings. You can usually find hand pulled noodles. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that is on those restaurant menus in those various cities. But for whatever reason, and it is kind of funny because Omaha does have so many Asian restaurants that are really good, and so many sushi restaurants that are really good. So it is kind of surprising that we haven't had dumplings or a dumpling focused restaurant until now. But you are correct. I'm very excited that we do.
Okay, for someone that, asking for a friend that has done dumplings, do you have a trick because I think there's some skill to scoop them up without them breaking. And also the most important thing is you don't want to lose the broth.
Yeah. So basically how I mean, it takes a couple of tools, but if you're going to use, you can't really use a fork. Fork isn't going to help you
Yeah.
in this scenario. So basically, you need a pair of chopsticks and a sort of a deeper soup spoon, which you can ask for at the restaurant, and they have them. And so I don't know, pick up the dumpling with your chopsticks, set it gently in that soup spoon, and then bite a little hole out of the top and let some of that steam escape because it's hot in there.
Yeah.
And then from the spoon, kind of slurp out the broth. Get as much of it as you can, and then you can take a bite out of the dumpling once it's not so hot. But if you bite directly into a soup dumpling, you are asking for an inferno in your mouth.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Hey, great review. We appreciate it. Safe travels. We'll catch up next month. You'll be gone for a couple of weeks, but always we appreciate it.
Yeah, we're headed to Europe, so we'll be back in early October. So I'll talk to you then.
That is going to be awesome for you and the fam. Thanks, Sarah.
Absolutely. Thanks. Bye.
That's Sarah Baker Hansen. You can see her latest review on her website.
You know, she also
SarahBakerHansen.com.
described on eating the dumpling and trying to save your mouth from an inferno. Remember the first time that you couldn't wait to jump into a pizza roll? Got it out of the oven, and all of a sudden you ate the whole thing, and then you either got the sauce that would squirt out, you're like, ah! Or like in Seinfeld, they wrap the crepes too tight, and then it starts spitting out at you. There's a process. There's delicacy that, you got to be delicate with.
I've not been there.
That's
not only
cool.
Sarah, but another person that I know who is chiming in now said you can tell the noodles and the dumplings are homemade.
Yeah,
make sure you get the pork buns.
Okay.
It's located on South 72nd there in Ralston.
That sounds really, really good.
All right, 7:18. Take a quick break. We'll come back. Jimmy will get an update. Plus, was with someone last night that had some observations
about the Huskers?
Of a practice that they witnessed this week that involves the lead up to the Nebraska-Illinois game. Had some interesting observations for somebody that played and hadn't been back for a while, but is in town for the week.
Okay.
Taking in volleyball, taking in football.
Doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's going to be no Wichita State scrimmage for baseball?
No.
They're not canceled.
They unfortunately don't have time to go to Vallis. Got a lot of things going on. But he said a couple of interesting things that I think just back up some of the stuff we're seeing on the field. So I'll share that with you when we come back after Jimmy's update. Steve Sipple will join us at 8:30. Howard Griffin from the Big Ten Network will pick his brain first 3 weeks of the conference season. Some intriguing games this weekend. USC, Michigan, of course, Nebraska and Illinois. Rutgers, Virginia Tech. Rutgers is here in 2 weeks. That's also an interesting one on the docket. So Howard will stop by at 9, and then Brian Edwards at 9:45. Don't forget, we have Thursday night football tonight. Aaron Rodgers will be on your screen.
Yeah.
And Bill Belichick will not be on the other sideline.
No.
Remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting line, though. Might be tricky. Might be a trap. 6.5 for the Jets. That's all still to come as we roll till 10 on 1620 The Zone.
If anybody could bring an extra cup of coffee, I'd be in debt to you. Maybe name my firstborn after you. Anyway, moving on. Some days are like that. Nebraska volleyball, in case you didn't know, they sweep Stanford 25-17, 25-22, and 25-14. In fact, it didn't even feel that close. In front of a crowd of almost 9,000 at Devaney last night, it marked the first win by Nebraska. They're now 9-1 over Stanford in 4 tries in Devaney since the Huskers moved into the building 11 years ago. Nebraska hit 263 on the match, held Stanford to 100, its lowest hitting percentage of the year. Stanford entered the match with the 4th best hitting percentage in the nation. They're also very smart. The Nebraska baseball team's exhibition with Wichita State has been canceled due to the threat of inclement weather on Saturday afternoon. The exhibition game against the Shockers will not be rescheduled. Nebraska will hold its annual Red-White Series October 11th through the 16th at Haymarket Park, with game times determined in the coming weeks. The 5-game series will be open to the public with free admission. People like free. High school football tonight in Class A. These are just some of the games. Bellevue West at Westside, Lincoln Southwest at Lincoln East. Norfolk takes on Lincoln Southeast, and Creighton Prep against Millard West. In Class B, Columbus Lakeview at Elkhorn Mount Michael, Elkhorn North at Gretna. And Gary, what will you be tonight?
The CW game is Elkhorn North Gretna.
Okay.
2 really good quarterbacks. That'll be a fun game.
Gary's going to be roast master tonight.
That's right.
Yeah.
Regular Jeff Ross. Brian O'Keefe hit a pair of home runs Wednesday as the Omaha Storm Chasers cruised to a 15-5 win over Louisville. They're now 88-56. They scored 9 runs in the 3rd inning. That's a lot to put the game out of reach early. O'Keefe and John Ray both hit 3-run homers during the frame to give them a 10-0 lead against the Bats. They play again this evening at 5:35. In football, 12 days after suffering a left knee injury in the season opener, Joey's quarterback, Jordan Love, returned to the practice field for your Green Bay Packers and left open the possibility of playing Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. Love has missed only 1 game, Sunday's win over the Colts, when Malik Willis started at quarterback after initial indications were that he could miss up to a month because of a sprained MCL.
I don't wish injury upon anybody, okay? Let me make that very, very clear.
You're better than
when
me.
I knew he returned to practice yesterday, there was part of me that was like, come on, really? Why do you got to even overachieve when it comes to coming back from an injury that looked pretty bad there at the end of the game in the Brazil? I was like, man, of course he's going to be back. It'll probably be better.
Next
then
time,
he'll be stronger.
Next
He'll
time,
probably set records.
Sweep the leg. You have a problem with that?
Freaking Packers.
Hey,
Get
good
all
news
the
in
quarterback luck.
Wisconsin's got all the luck this week. Congrats to Bob Uecker as his beloved Milwaukee Brewers become the
You're
first.
talking about the Badger football team.
Oh, we're not.
That is not the case for them Badgers.
Hey, the Packers are okay, and the Brewers are NL Central champions. They reached the postseason. A little weird celebration Wednesday afternoon when the Cubs' home loss to the Oakland Athletics enabled the Brewers to wrap up the division crowd. The Brewers clubhouse emptied of players with 1 out to go in the 9th inning in Chicago a couple of hours before Milwaukee's scheduled first pitch against Philadelphia. A muffled cheer could be heard after the final out when the Brewers won consecutive division titles for the first time in 42 years. Later in the evening, the Yankees, and no one cares about them, they earned their place in the playoffs with a 2-1 win over the Mariners in 10 innings. It's all about the crew. Other baseball, because we're getting to that time of the year. I love it. The Diamondbacks, they're good. People forget that. They beat the Rockies 9-4. Angels beat the White Sox, and again, who hasn't, 4-3. Giants over the Orioles 5-3. Baltimore's kind of slumped. They're 84-68, not as dominant as they were a year ago. The Braves trying to hang on to their wild card hopes, 7-1 win at Cincinnati in a rematch of the 95 NLCS, won by Atlanta in 4 games. Astros lose at the Padres 4-0. Everyone kept their shoes on, though, so they got that going for them. And the Dodgers win in Miami 8-4. Guardians get by the Twins 5-4. That's why Nick's a little spry today. Yeah, Red Sox beat the Rays 2-1.
It was a brutal loss for the Twins.
Yeah, it was.
Scoring 3 in the 10th.
Well, brutal loss for them on Tuesday as well. So it's, yeah.
Speaking of, the Tigers sweep the Royals 4-2. They beat them. That's not good.
So the Twins are, Correo, hello yesterday, but the Twins are in a free fall. They've lost 19 of 29.
Yeah.
And Royals have lost 4 in a row. They just got swept by the Tigers, who all of a sudden are half game behind the Twins for the wild card.
Yeah.
And here I was hoping Taylor Swift would start dating Bob.
Well, and this is
fortunes.
Today's a big game for Cleveland because if they win, they secure the playoff spot. Now their magic number's down to 4, but yeah, they would secure the playoff spot today. So it's not like this is a throwaway afternoon getaway day for Cleveland either. So
telling you, I might give up my Cub fandom if they run it back with this same team. It's not that hard to win your division. You got to find a way to get to 88 wins.
Preach.
Mm-hmm. And freaking Brewers.
Would have been worse if St. Louis, though?
St. Louis is an afterthought.
Okay.
Now it's the Brewers, but you know what?
Would have been better if it was Pittsburgh.
I hope Lane and Bob and the radio crew and the Brewer fans enjoy their 2 days in the playoffs.
Per usual. It's usually what happens.
It's fair.
Finally, we heard this at the end of the show yesterday. NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski dropped one last Woj bomb as he agrees to become the general manager of the men's basketball program at St. Bonaventure. He is an alum. He has a strong relationship with the program, including as a fundraiser for the school's collective in recent years. He is a 1991 graduate of the Western New York School, a much quieter life, and he goes out on his own terms. Not many people can do that. And most importantly, if you had this, he retired before LeBron did. Who would have thunk that?
He retired with 3 years left on a contract that pays him $20 million.
It's a smart, huh?
I don't know if
I don't know if it's smart or...
I don't know if he'll be able to stay away.
I don't know if the Bonnies are matching that. I'm going to go ahead and say they're probably not. I just want to know that anytime they get big recruiting news, will he try to drop Woj bombs then still? Because, I mean,
baby Woj bombs?
Old habits die hard, do they not?
Was Shams cheering yesterday?
What we were talking about is because Shams a free agent. Is he now the new Woj?
If McAfee wants Shams at ESPN, McAfee will get Shams. And remember, McAfee didn't get along with Woj, but he loves Shams. He has Shams come on his show.
And he owns the network now. He and Stephen A. are running it right into the ground.
Oh, we were talking about that in the crossover, the amount of personalities now with who is
there's a lot of jealousy.
Yeah.
So Wilbon went off on McAfee.
Good.
One, because they allow him to curse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was some jealousy from a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be. I mean, PTI still is one of the highest rated shows on ESPN. I honestly watch it almost daily.
Okay.
I mean, Wilbon in his later year has really, like, he's just angry at everything.
He's gotten very crotchety, yes.
And I think,
not judging.
I think Kornheiser is funny.
Mm-hmm.
But PTI, usually of the week of ratings compared to all the other shows, is like somewhere their 5 shows will be anywhere from 1 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And PTI is like a banger.
And that's saying something for those guys in the consistency that have been there too. That's definitely saying something.
Hey, and Kornheiser's been in studio for 2 straight days. Because post-COVID, he started doing it from his house.
Right.
And once COVID was over, we got to 22, we got to 23, we got to 24, and he was still in his attic.
Yeah.
So he's been in studio the last couple of days. I think there is some jealousy building at ESPN.
Yeah.
Of the attention that McAfee has gotten, and they allow McAfee to do things that they would not allow anybody else. And you got an older ESPN head that kind of let that out, and it's become a little thing. Thing about it is, like, McAfee won't care, or he'll go after Wilbon.
Yeah.
He'll take a crack at him because people are afraid of him at the network. They give him this huge leash.
Yeah.
More reason I don't watch.
But
should people be allowed to swear on TV?
I think we're at that point now where it's okay.
I wanted to swear on the show when you were talking about KU football earlier, so I'll be the last person to say no, bad words.
The amount of podcasts that people listen to and that are inundated every day, where you can hear that on a daily basis, and with satellite radio, absolutely.
Kids do love their bad words.
I mean, I asked the other day if I could swear on air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was told you can say F once,
and then after you do it, you're allowed to say it, but then you're also packing your stuff up afterwards, which was a pretty good response.
I said, my follow-up was, so that's the second time? Like the first time it's okay?
I believe what I took out of that one is you could say it the first time, and that was...
We will not pull a Des Moines sports radio.
Mm-hmm.
Marty Terrell, who was a
I know Marty. Or you, Marty.
Friggin' loser.
Long ago.
And I'm glad he's in prison because he ruined a lot of people's lives.
He's in prison now? Oh,
hell yeah.
Wow.
And he should stay in prison.
Yeah.
Man, he was a shyster. He took a lot of people's money and messed up people's lives. Friggin' liar. He was a loser.
Wow.
Absolute friggin' loser. But him and a guy, and rest in peace, used to be the voice of the Drake Bulldogs, longtime Des Moines broadcaster Larry Kotler.
Oh, yeah.
They had an incident off air that was caught on a mic, and it was F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. They all lost their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy, don't say anything nice about Marty Terrell.
No,
Marty Terrell is exactly where he should be.
Yep.
And he should never get out.
That was a crazy story.
I knew of him, but didn't know him too much personally. But good Lord, I'm reading this story. I did not know this. This was 5 years ago.
He swindled a lot of people out of a lot of money with sports tickets and promises and stuff.
I believe it, though.
Yeah, loser.
Also on the radio/podcast front, I was close.
You got one?
I was close, Gary. I was so close to what we talked about in the crossover. You left me tempted and intrigued just with the soundbite you gave me.
Oh, I know where you're going here.
Yeah.
Everybody, for one moment here.
I couldn't so I tried it.
No. Okay. I'm listening.
I tried it. I will not listen to another one, but I did go further than 5 minutes.
Yes.
So
this is the Talk to a podcast.
Yeah, I did go. I was just.
You listened to her?
It was the train wreck effect. You did a good job. And then you played a couple of. What was it? The
hey, one in the hole.
If it's not good, if it's not good for the, or what's good for the hole's not good for the soul.
Yes,
that's a T-shirt.
She just gave out advice.
She does.
So I want people to know this,
dude. It's so bad. I mean, I gave it. I think about 6-7 minutes.
Talk to a podcast, man. It's young Haley.
It's just
so. This is some of the comments on her latest podcast.
Okay.
I used to beat my children and cheat on my wife daily. Ever since the Talk to a podcast, I've become a self-made millionaire and a faithful husband and father. Thank you so much, Haley Welch. On Everyone's Soul, we'll be early for every episode of Talk to a. I skipped my mother's funeral to watch this. The Grim Reaper was dragging me away, but when we heard the new episode of Talk to a dropped, he gave me a respectful nod, and I walked away without a scratch, just so I could watch this amazing episode. Inspirational, educational, and overall exceptional content. Best podcast ever. Thanks, Talk to a. The last one, Russia and Ukraine agreed to a ceasefire so they could watch Talk to a. After watching an episode, both troops were filled with renewed hatred and a lust for killing.
Those are some of the best. I mean, how would you not listen to that then?
How great is this country? Let me. I got to be careful. I'm going to bring.
We're going to hell in a handbasket.
Let's see.
Yeah, it was. I really couldn't believe I was listening to it. Now,
I got it. There's some. I got to.
You got one queued up here.
I got to make sure.
She uses the bad words.
Oh, here we go.
Have to come out somewhere, and it usually comes out in your poochie banana.
I heard poutine. That's all.
Well,
gravy, fries.
What I did catch is old Granny. Granny's kind of a dirty bird.
Yeah, hold on here.
Granny's a bit of a dirty bird.
So how long before she teams up with McAfee?
See, I wouldn't be shocked if she's a guest.
I believe
at some
that he was on her show.
Oh, he was? That sounds about right. Well, hell.
Or no, she was on his show.
Yeah.
So
that
we
makes
could
sense.
really get the Hawk Tua if they get AJ.
AJ Hawk. And I'm sure his reaction would be the exact same as it is in every show, Pat McAfee show.
Okay, so what I've learned, and people listening right now are becoming dumber. That's okay.
Exactly. This is straight up from
This is
Billy
America.
Madison.
She cannot repeat that comment that made her famous.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1 second here.
But she had to drop out to pay the bills and take care of my grandma. And then she went viral, so she made some cash. But Granny keeps asking her what Hawk Tua means. So we wrote this song for Haley's grandma to explain myself to the elderly. Hawk Tua means being selfless. Hawk Tua means you care. Hawk Tua is another word for hard work, like rolling up your sleeves and tying back your hair. Hawk Tua means love and affection. Hawk Tua means we're in a recession, Grandma. Stop asking so many questions.
That's good. See, that's good.
Wow.
That was good.
You only stuck with it for 5 minutes?
I'm taking one for the team, and I'm telling you, your life will be different by just sampling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I did. I can't really commit that I will go further than what I listened to yesterday, but I will say it was the whole kind of rolling your eyes laughing of, when you're watching train wreck television, it's exactly that. That's exactly what it is. It's train wreck podcast.
It was like watching Springer back in the day.
You know how it originated. Now that song is actually pretty clever, I must say.
Did have a nice little beat to it.
And Granny's a dirty bird. That's what I got.
Hey, old people can get down. We've discussed that on the show.
Yeah, you got the Golden Bachelorette that's going on right now. She's 61.
Yeah.
There's another one, huh?
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't even know that.
Gary was the Golden Bachelor.
Yeah.
I think that they broke up already.
Gary.
That's too bad.
I remember you being excited though that there was a Gary.
Got to keep them going.
Yeah.
All right, we are. I promised I would share some insight from what's going on in Lincoln.
Yeah. Enough about
and I will. I think I can share some things. I'm not speaking out of turn, but they're just kind of some interesting insights of somebody that just dropped in the other day that shared with me, and I'll share with all of you when we come back on 1620 The Zone. 3 o'clock today. Get to your favorite Big Ten Network channel because they will release the men's and women's conference basketball schedule. Season starts November 4th. September 19th,
Cutting it
the
kinda
conference
close.
schedule will be released.
Mm-hmm.
So plan accordingly. Probably Nebraska will get screwed. There won't be many Saturday games.
Yeah.
Be
Oh,
some-
remember the old Sunday afternoon games when they were on that long run? That finally there was a Saturday night. Like,
well, like
it's just
even
the Big Ten hated Nebraska for a long time. You just got to accept that.
Creighton's home schedule was like, okay,
Mhm.
like it, like Saturdays. Saturdays are the chai.
Yeah.
And I got an okay like home schedule
Mhm.
of
Yeah, like some of their better ones are weeknights.
like UConn. I mean,
Yeah.
cowards. Why aren't
Although
you coming to Omaha on a weekend? Play on a Saturday, move that game to night.
But see, the thing about the
Place
UConn game,
juiced.
if you do it on a Saturday night,
Yeah.
you can't have cheap beer on Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't think you'd waste it for the UConn game
No.
because I think you save it for like
DePaul. Well, I know last year DePaul was the pink out game, so you assure yourself a very successful night at the pink out game.
Do you think you use that as motivation in the locker room? Guys,
they scheduled their pink out for us.
You remember when you were in high school and you were playing football and you were the homecoming opponent?
Right, it's the same thing.
We go into Omaha, and this is the 19th straight year we've been cheap beer night.
Or cheap beer pink out night.
Change the narrative. All right. So I told you this. And I'll say to protect his identity. I don't think you'll be able to pick out who this is.
Okay.
Player, coach, an acquaintance, I will say, told me yesterday, he goes, I went to practice the other day. And I went, so of course I had to ask questions.
What does Zach Taylor think?
So this person is looking at what he saw at Lincoln at football practice from a different, as a player / coach kind of look.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing he said to me, he goes, they have learned how to practice like you do in the NFL. He said, there is no downtime. People are moving all the time.
Yeah.
And he said, I think it's interesting that everybody knows their role. He said, even the manager that is in charge of the water bottles, like knows their role.
Yeah.
Like everybody has a job to do, he observed. But he said it's
nice.
They practice like NFL, where there's always stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's like stations here. There's different situations. They're running a lot of situational football that they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that caught me like right away. He said, I was like, whoa. He also, he said, because then I said, what about the music? Because people that have been to practice, or, in the past have been like, gee, how can you ever hear yourself think?
Yeah.
And he told me something that I didn't know. He said Rule is mic'd up during practice. Now they play music, but it's not like overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Scott was the head coach and we get to go to more practices and stay
more
longer.
sessions, yeah.
Dude, they would drive around with that tractor with the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
It was a concert in there. The music choices were really good, but it was like loud. But he said Rule is mic'd up. So they play music, but when Rule starts talking, the music stops.
Yeah.
And so everybody on the practice field can hear the head coach, even if he's not by you.
Right.
And he told me a story. He also said they don't let guys slide by. Like they will chew guys' butts and they will get in them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll go right back to practicing. But they will stop and they will get after you. He told me a story because there's music. And then once it stops, everybody kind of is like, they listen up because the head coach is going to speak, or wherever drill he is at, He said he went and he got in the grill of a defensive lineman and got on him for something he wasn't doing.
Yeah.
And then he goes, where is your position coach? And he said Knighton was on another field working with other defensive linemen. So this same person that was telling me what he observed also told me the thing that he was uncomfortable with in Scott's era when he'd watch practice is there were a lot of yes men.
Yeah.
Like there would not be any, hey, I think we should do something different.
Right.
So he said Knighton comes back over and in a huge bellowing voice says, I guess everybody wants to coach my defensive lineman.
Nice.
And goes, everybody, we're playing well because everybody wants to coach my defensive lineman. And about 10 minutes later, he said Rule walks by Knighton and slaps him on the butt.
Yeah.
And he goes, they have a really good relationship. And then he said something else that caught him because we were talking about minor details. He said, I'm watching linemen work. And he goes, the quarterbacks go over on the side and they're practicing quarterback sneaks. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. And he goes, think about this. When would you ever have time to practice quarterback sneaks like when you're running 11 on 11?
Right.
He goes, but all the quarterbacks and the linemen were off on the side, and that's all they were doing was practicing quarterback sneaks. And so, of course, I had to say, do you think it's going to happen this weekend? He goes, I don't know. He goes, I think that's a regular part of their practice that they work on little stuff like
that.
So
if you have to ever go to it at any point during the season, you've had the reps. Yeah, because that's what I always think of when we saw the open practice, you always heard about people that were watching it, that it is so different, that there's constant movement and everybody's doing something, everybody's involved, and you go from the next thing to the next thing. It's so efficient. The reps, the amount of reps is what is always talked about. And even in the small sample size that I got, I think that's what I would chalk that up to, is just in case they ever have it. They've been doing it. So it's in their head.
And he told me, he was at Tuesday's practice, and Tuesday is Bloody Tuesday.
Yep.
He said Tuesday was long. He goes, they hit, but it's a quick whistle. Like they're not taking guys to the ground, but they'll let them pop each other.
Initial contact
but it's
pop,
boom with a whistle. And then he said, one of the things that caught his eye when practice ends is, you got the whole group of players are getting ready to go off the field after their big meeting, after practice wraps up. He goes, the thing that caught his eye is guys stick around. And he said not stick around to play, grab ass.
Yeah.
He said guys go and they're on the sled. Guys go and they work on routes. And he said it's football. It is all business. It is all football. He goes, it is an NFL practice. And then of course I had to go, well, so you saw installation finalization day.
Yeah.
And
what are they going to run?
And you have the script now.
I'm not going to say what he said, but he was very impressed. He was like, it's an NFL practice. Everybody has a role. People are moving. They're getting reps.
There's a purpose.
There's an energy, but when you screw up, you know it. And he's like, it's just the way they practice with NFL coaches, that they practice like an NFL team.
Well,
and he goes, I imagine, and he goes, when scouts are rolling through here and they see that, that's a better. They can observe a practice in a different light compared to, you go to a place that maybe doesn't have an NFL feel to it, and they do practices different.
100%. And so two things that come to mind as you're talking about that is right there where you left off of the NFL part of it. This is something that I don't think probably most people would even bring up in conversation when it comes up about recruiting and the attractiveness to certain schools and what they provide. Obviously, we know what Nebraska needs to do to continue to make that brand more attractive, winning and then having that pipeline to the NFL. But how you do practice, not only for getting ready for a game on Saturday, but for what you just laid out right there. Because I immediately thought of when you have a system that is very NFL-like and you have visitors that are making their way through to evaluate certain guys, that they see you practicing as you would getting ready for a Sunday, that I would like to imagine there are more programs that do this too. But
and he hasn't been like to Georgia or Alabama.
Yeah, and those are the schools I even thought of, and that brings me to my second part. But I mean, kind of wrapping up the first part of, that's one of those sneaky things I think for recruits when they're able to come and observe a practice as opposed to maybe the banger of a Friday night game. But when you actually have time to see how they go about their work, and you're like, damn, that's efficient. Wow, I can see how over time you would get better. Because you're not wasting time. Every minute that you're out there on the field, you are constantly getting reps, you're maximizing all those. How is that not going to make you better? And that's also very familiar that there's not this big culture shock when you get to the NFL, and that's how they prepare. So I think that's a huge plus. And yes, I'm assuming that there are a lot of programs in the SEC, a lot of programs that have a reputation of something very similar to that. But then it brings back the biggest point of them all, and that is all of this seems like it should be just a given, right? All of this seems like, well, yeah, they're a college football outfit that's trying to take themselves serious. And it wasn't just previous coaching staffs at Nebraska. There's other programs that I would assume if you go to mid, lower level Power 4 teams, you're going to see completely different methods when it comes to practice. And the amount of people that are just sitting around waiting to either get in on a rep, get in on a drill, but are just, they're wasting their time by doing nothing, as opposed to, okay, if you're not actually in on the 11 on 11 where you're on the field, you're doing other things that are keeping you engaged, activated into the practice itself. There's constant motion. Just all of those things that I think people take for granted, where they're like, well, why is this a big deal? It is a big deal because this isn't how the way it has been for a very, very long time.
All right, Sip stops by in 30 minutes at 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, largest celebration of whiskey in the region. That'll be happening a week from this Saturday on September 28th, downtown Hilton. And we'll also have big red overreaction from the Purdue game, also live at Omaha Whiskey Fest. And next week, right here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley, we'll have another chance for you to win passes for Omaha Whiskey Fest.
Also, don't forget, today is isn't it today, the deadline to get your picks in for week 2 of the 1620 The Zone Pick'em?
Yes, sir.
You can be like Kyle, who won $2,500. Got in at 10:03 last Monday, so he wins a tiebreaker. And the reason he got in is because he signed up for the 1620 The Zone email club, the VIP club, to get bottle service and sit behind velvet ropes in leather couches. So congratulations to Kyle. I saw Odson flexed. He went 9-1.
He did, yeah.
I get what every squirrel finds an acorn once in a while.
Come on, man.
Why would you want to start at the top when you can work your way in the bottom and then work your way up? Because there's only one way to go.
Yeah, you're only going to go down.
Oh, that's right. You were last, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up until you chimed in.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah, football's kicking me in the ass so far, except for the Huskers.
Well, he was the defending champ last year, too. So.
He was. You
got to be humbled sometimes.
It's early.
Yep.
It's
the 93 Cowboys started 0-2, and it worked out for them.
The Bengals have gotten off some really bad starts, and then they go, not lately.
24 Giants, 0-2, might win the Super Bowl. It can happen. Dream the unbelievable dream.
Yeah. Look at your Giants optimism. Do you know who the quarterback is?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Does Richie agree with your take?
No.
Yeah.
Should I read his last text to me about the Giants?
Yes, I'd like to know.
Let me see here. So Richie is from New York. He is a long time.
I forget, is he a Yankees or Mets guy?
I have to sift through because he's also an A's fan.
Oh, he's an A's fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
wow.
So the Cubs lost 2 or 3 to the A's.
Yeah.
So I got.
So he's having some fun.
I got that crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I must have listened to 10 podcasts yesterday and all day the same thing. I don't understand how you can go from a top 10 coach and a staff to a bottom third 1 and 2 years. This was during the game the other day. Let's see. I have no kicker who I would have cut at halftime. My punter is another one. Both are killing us. A defense that can't get off the field in third down. I'm done with this regime. Somehow we've got to get in the end zone again. I'm using 26-1. Those are the numbers of his players. For the first time in my life, I want to tank to get rid of this whole regime. Trade all the garbage for picks starting with 5. I've had it. That's Thibodeau. It's being reported that the new kicker was hurt going into the game, not dressing a backup kicker. I said, Belichick is waiting. He said, he's the next coach, no question. This idiot is trying to defend his decision not to have another kicker. That's the life of a Giants fan, is Richie.
Man.
He will also be very happy because I am taking Cleveland as my eliminator pick.
Oh, okay.
Browns are a 6-point favorite playing the Giants this weekend. Go Brownies!
Another wise pick for the eliminator would probably be, and I'm just looking because I don't. Oh, yeah. Actually, this sounds kind of weird, but I still would take them. The Raiders, because you know who they play. The Panthers.
They're bad.
They're really bad.
Andy Dalton, though. Andy Dalton.
Stop.
Little sparks.
Rose Bowl hero.
Stop.
Speaking of lines, what is going on in the Utah-Oklahoma State line?
Where was it? Because I'm pulling it up right now. So 2.5 Okie State. What was it?
Utah was a 2.5-point favorite.
That's what I thought.
This must mean that 27-year-old Cam Rising is questionable for the game because that shifted last night.
Poor Pops.
And how old is Bowman?
27.
Yeah.
So it has to
not
be
Brandon Whedon.
If you trust the injury reports, because the Big 12 does injury reports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's got to be Cam Rising is questionable. So he has that abdominal injury.
Mm-hmm.
Also, thing to keep in mind if you are going to dabble in this game, just a little bit of advice. Cam Rising is 7-6 in road or neutral games. In Salt Lake City, he's money. I don't think he's ever gotten beat at home. But road or neutral games, he struggles a little bit. He must not. Someone in Vegas knows that he's not going to play because that's a big shift from 2.5 to now Okie State being a 3-point favorite. That's a 3:00 game. So I'm trying to. It's Thursday. I'm still trying to map out my weekend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Do we know yet?
So Oklahoma, Tennessee play at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
That game starts at 3. I mean, there's no way you can go to that game, traffic, get to Norman, because you got to go through Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe, I don't know, I've never driven straight from Stillwater to Norman. Maybe there's a back road that you might drive by a Brahms or something, or an oil rig.
Or as I like to call it, an oiled derrick. Yeah. Yeah. I think you should go to that game, though. Just figure it out.
I may stay around here and go to a small college game.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Were you going to go to the Oak Bowl?
No, there ain't a chance I'm going to be in Nebraska City. That's a
Come on, man.
That's a long drive.
I would assume it's going to be bumping this week, too. Oh, no game. Oh, you think Val is going to be popular on Saturday? Nebraska City?
It's supposed to rain.
More
People are going to stay inside.
More fall-like.
I think a lot of people will stay inside and watch football.
There we go. I like that.
That's what you should do.
You should. Can't go to if you were hoping to see the Huskers play Wichita State in baseball. Can't
Sharp
do
and
that.
Handley here for your couch.
That was canceled. That was kind of weak, man. I feel like they could play that game.
Maybe they're going to Vallis.
It's a short drive. No, for Wichita State, come on. It's not that long of a drive. Come on
I said
up.
what I said.
Come on up. Jeez. I want to see this. I want to see a little baseball.
I'm not going to drive 5 hours not to play.
Yeah, but there might be a window. I mean, they
It's fall baseball.
They canceled it yesterday.
It's fall baseball.
They have plans in Wichita.
Are they keeping score?
I mean, it doesn't.
It's going to help Nebraska's RPI.
Well, they do play Wichita State in the actual spring too. So you get a little early scouting report on each other. Come on, it's beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of rubber arms that will be throwing that you'll never see again.
Probably.
They'll be in the portal.
I mean, there still can be cuts after fall ball.
Yes, there can be. All right, Sip's going to join us here in a little bit. He's got a thought or two. Maybe Sip's got his favorite memory of his 400th game at Memorial Stadium. It's crazy. Sip has been there for every game since 1962.
We were trying to find those people.
I think there is one person that has been to, it might be more than one, but it's not many that have been to every game at Memorial Stadium since 1962.
Will that person be, even if that person can't make it to the game?
They miss one.
Don't you do some type of video for them? You go to them. You do a little feature.
I'm going to tell Harold and Wynetta to pull out the iPhone and record something.
No, you go to him. You find out where he's at, and
the Zoom?
You let him hold up a sign or something. I don't know, something creative, something to say. Hey,
like dude with a sign.
This guy has seen all of them. Why not? You don't think that would fire up everyone?
What would you rather have? An older gentleman talking about his memories of Memorial Stadium,
or
Will Compton?
Will Compton?
How about
Will
both?
Compton?
How about Will with the guy?
Face paint. Face paint. Will Compton's kind of scary. I got to admit.
Actually, both of them face painted would be cool. Will shows up.
Having Will next to the guy.
Yeah.
Now that would be actually kind of fun. I like that idea.
I think
it's all inclusive.
I think this is the day that Compton films his hype video,
and
then it goes through the people that have to watch it first.
Yeah,
and then they green light it.
They do, and the necessary edits or bleeps.
You can't call them that.
But okay, there's been a lot of times that he says ass, like kick their ass.
He would like to win by a lot.
Do we need to keep that out of it? I mean, come on. It doesn't need to be that.
I don't know.
That can definitely. I think that's okay.
I would think if you're playing Ohio State and he says that, I would probably take that out. But if you're playing like Northern Iowa, yeah, just go on
let it roll.
A frenzy of swearing.
Yeah, and the good news is they don't play Ohio State here, so that won't happen this year. If you're playing, I guess I was going to say Iowa. That's also a Kinnick, so never mind. I've got none. Maybe Rutgers. Just really lay into it.
Blowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big game for them this weekend against Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
You want Rutgers to come in here ranked as well?
Yes.
So what I do the math. 4 of the next 5 could be against ranked opponents.
Yeah, indeed.
If everything falls accordingly.
Indeed.
It's also first time. This is the first time in a while. I don't know the exact stat that Nebraska's playing a ranked opponent at home. Like, haven't they gone
2009?
Haven't they gone to
when they've been ranked?
Or haven't they gone a stretch of where the games they played, ranked opponents have all been on the road?
Michigan last year.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking of ranked versus ranked.
That's what I think it is. Ranked versus ranked. I think it was
back
2009, right? Yeah, I think ranked versus ranked goes all the way back then.
No, 14 or whatever the UCLA game was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The 11 a.m. game. Yes, you're right.
One thing that has not been brought up about this game is no one has been clamoring for the uniforms, the alternate uniforms that Nebraska wore against Illinois about a decade ago.
Was it that long ago? Gosh. Are you talking about the throwbacks that had the...
I'm talking about the god-awful pajamas that they wore. The red.
Oh, yeah, the red where you couldn't see the numbers. It looked like duct tape. And because, I remember I was in the press box that one. You could not tell who was who. Like, huh? Yeah, that one was bad. Illinois has kind of been the alternate uniform team because then they did do the...
I'm surprised homecoming's not this weekend. But then it would have been on the Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do that on Friday, although that would have been very similar to the high school experience. Remember, Illinois is also doing something similar with their throwback with the leather helmet. And this is
By the
where
way,
Jake Butt pissed me off because he said, I don't think anybody's ever done that before. Yeah, they did.
Illinois celebration of their 100th anniversary of Memorial Stadium greater than Nebraska's celebration. I think Nebraska missed out on some cool opportunities to celebrate that stadium. But I like what they're doing in Champaign.
The uniforms are cool.
They're doing uniforms. They're doing some other things. They got cheap hot dogs. They don't have.
Yeah, they're.
They got cheap food.
What are they? $4?
That's when you see. I told you. That's when you know what your level of competition is. If you're going into Champaign and you're the $4 hot dog game,
it's like, $4 hot dog.
Hey, they got to make some money. So when Ohio State comes in there, ain't $4 hot dogs. They're about $10 hot dogs. They look the same size.
Yeah. You up the price,
gentlemen.
Absolutely.
I want you to look to the left. I want you to look to the right, and I want you to understand that we're the $4 hot dog game. They don't do this to Ohio State. They don't do this to Michigan. They don't do this to Nebraska. One, their fans are more passionate and have more money. But gentlemen, do you always want to be known as the $4 hot dog team? Do not become the $4 hot dog team. Whatever you do today, your blood, your sweat, your tears, reach up into the heavens and tell yourself that today we are going to elevate ourselves to at least a $5 hot dog team.
At least the normal price hot dog team.
And then when we're done,
like our peers,
we'll sit on their field and we will eat their hot dogs.
Remember the homecoming game was always that way too? If you were the team that was scheduled for homecoming. So does that mean Rutgers is going to come in with even a massive chip on their shoulder?
I don't know. I'm not going to touch that because all of a sudden Nebraska started to become people's homecoming game.
Yeah, that's very true. That was weird.
Like this year?
Yeah.
All right. Sips coming up in a bit. 1620 The Zone.
Hey, we've been talking about it. It's officially most wonderful time of the year, Vala's season. It's going to be hopping on Saturday, too. Vala's is open now through November 3rd. Has family fun you know and love, including 2 new rides this year. Freya's Egg Spinners. There you go. And Tim's Runaway Grain Train. Don't forget about the delicious foods like fresh pies, caramel apples, kettle corn, turkey legs, and much more. Listen to the Connor Happer Show every day for your chance to win a pair of passes.
I apologize. These things say power bumps. There's nothing power about this.
Oh, I like this, though. This is good. This is upbeat.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm going to trust you.
When that 8-year-old is driving the family van to Target, probably was listening to this.
Why is an 8-year-old driving the family van to begin with? What type of surroundings did you have?
You got Google. An 8-year-old drive to Target. That's the power of Target. Also, I was watching
little Ricky Bobby got his career started.
I was watching the video for an 8-year-old driving.
Pretty
not
good.
bad. Now they did hit something, but for an 8-year-old, I mean, what do you expect?
Wow, it just pops right up too.
But they wouldn't be the worst driver in Omaha, is what you're saying. They'd be kind of in the middle.
A trip to Target caused a stir. They goes,
Hey,
because the driver was 8.
That's what a lot of men say when their wives or their girlfriends go to Target and they have control of the checkbook.
One of the best satire videos I've ever seen is the men's support group in the parking lot where they tailgate at Target while the wives go in and just shop.
Yeah.
And so they all just hang out. Now it's like a men's club in every Target parking lot. Yeah.
Costco and Target, 2 places you can't just go in and go, yeah, I just want to look around. You're going to leave with something. But yeah, an 8-year-old
he's right.
Somehow took the family vehicle and drove to Target.
Kids love Target. Been scientifically proven. That dog.
This dash cam footage is great.
You want to know if Nebraska football is back? If an 8-year-old steals the family car and drive to Lincoln. We're back, baby. 8-year-olds are back.
I need to get to that Rutgers game.
So Steve Sipple's going to join us here in a little bit. Discussion point yesterday. Micah Mazuka came back up. Henry Lutovsky is going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Mazuka will be dressed. He'll be on the sidelines.
He'll be available if needed.
I got it. Hey, thanks for showing up. We discussed this the other day. I shared my thoughts on how Rule was handling this.
Mm-hmm.
The right punishment, like is it punishment enough?
As far as what he's just not starting, but still being able to suit up for this game. He didn't play.
I was closer to the action on Saturday night than he was.
That's true. It depends on what he's doing internally too. I'm assuming there's that part of it, and that was probably going to be a big part of him even having the opportunity to suit up this Saturday. That'd be my guess, without knowing the full extent of the internal discipline, I guess. So I'd say, yeah. I say if first of all, you're not starting, I'm going to assume if he sees any snaps at all, they'd be in the limited variety or where Nebraska is in cover mode late fourth quarter. And at that point, would you even put him in? I wouldn't.
I think it'd be a good sign if he didn't play.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's the punishment, but the fact that the guy that is playing there, that you keep promoting, man, he should be a starter, could be a starter, that Lutovsky stays in the game, plays the snaps. There's no need to bring him out.
Right. And
you move through another game. Now, I don't see a scenario where, okay, Lutovsky plays a series and then you're going in. I think if Mazuka doesn't play a snap on Friday night, that's okay for Nebraska.
I would agree from the standpoint that obviously Lutovsky is doing, well, two things. Lutovsky's doing well and Lutovsky is healthy. Because if it was a situation where,
well, yeah, that'd be the only but he's healthy. He doesn't have an injury,
right? If something happened in the game,
that would throw this conversation out.
Absolutely,
great opportunity for him. I mean, I don't know. Rule kept saying, "Guy could be a starter." It's like, whoa!
Yeah, so they had him earmarked as a starter. So, but back to the question about is it enough from a punishment standpoint? If you don't dress in one game and then you're not starting and there's a chance that you don't play in the second game, I would say, yeah, okay. Now you moved on. Again. Now this is within whatever parameters they laid out of this is what we need to see from you. And Rule said in no specific terms yesterday that he's doing everything that they're asking of him to do. The fact that he's practicing, he was out there practicing, he's engaged with the team. That would lead me to believe that hopefully message received and you move forward with that.
You watched Chasing 3 that was released
I
last
did.
night, right? So
Yeah.
I only watched the first couple of minutes. And
Very
I
sh-
understand
very
that
brief.
I understand that I'm not like this is the one where I'm going to run through the wall. This feels like a Northern Iowa.
I was
Chasing 3.
yeah. I mean, I watched it because it was out there. I couldn't wait to see the Colorado one. Yesterday, as I'm like, I just want to see it. Maybe they'll show maybe they'll show me at the game.
Ted says there was a particular lineman that was missing during the Jake Young private ceremony.
Yeah, it would have been him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because that was actually really, really cool. Where they had not only every because you've heard about this group as very tight knit, very close, and so as Tyler Kanaka is being recognized, they're all there to support him. Even Donovan Ryle is there to support him, and then they're all going up to the family and shaking their hands. Yeah, no, there was definitely no Micah there.
Well, ask Sip if it's the right punishment or what happens moving forward. And with this football team, that is a favorite on Friday night, the 400 sellout, all of those things and much more with the one and only Steve Sipple next. Let's play a game before we bring him on. Where do you think Steve Sipple is in Lincoln?
I bet he is walking. I'm going to say he's walking bullet.
Let's find out here as we welcome in the man, the myth, the legend from On 3 and 93.7 The Ticket. Just got done with his show. Good morning.
How are you guys doing? I'm downtown, right by the old YMCA, across from the Embassy Suites, catty corner of Misty's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting in my truck, so you'll hear the door here pretty quick.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. I left the ticket a little later than usual.
Okay. All right.
Now, do you have a walk with bullet coming up here as soon as you go home?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
Good.
I'm headed to Bullet right now.
All right. How's the construction down there? A lot of construction has been going on in that area by the Lead Center as well.
Yeah, I will not encounter that. Though. So we're all right.
Hey, let's we got a lot to discuss. What are your thoughts after the Mazuka announcement that was speculating all last week, announced officially before the game, briefly mentioned after the game by the head man, talks about it again on Monday, talks about it yesterday. What's your read on the situation, and what do you think that position will look like tomorrow night?
Well, my read is I think Micah Mazuka probably had to do some things to get himself right in the eyes of the staff, and he did them. And so maybe the process of getting back went a little more quickly than Rule maybe thought on Monday. So you fast forward to Wednesday and things got done. Maybe that's what it is. I think that's my read. And then what will it look like? That's a good question. It's pretty clear that Mazuka won't be in the starting lineup. I guess what you're asking me is how quickly or if he will get inserted in the game. I wish I could answer that. It'll be definitely something to watch. I don't know if it's as simple as saying it depends on how Henry Letovsky's playing. I don't know if it's that simple, but it might be. Anyway, I just think that the key to me is that Mazuka's back in the fold. He's on the team. He'll be suited up. You don't have this sort of, it wasn't a real big dark cloud, but my interpretation of how the fans kind of read this, and there was a lot of interest in this. A lot of people were asking me. And I think it's not because of they want the gossip. They want to know what's going on. I think it's more about this team's pretty good, and I don't think you want anything that would hold it back. I think that's where the level of interest comes from. That's my level of interest in it. I do think this is a pretty good team, and you kind of, when you think that way, I think you kind of look for things. You're a little more sensitive to things that maybe would hold it back. So and now this doesn't look like something that's going to hold anything back.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. With Letovsky as well, we got to see him last week. The confidence, it seems to be articulated well from the coaching staff. Gary brought this up, and I think it was a good point about it's not that he'll be overwhelmed. It's just being able to fulfill his assignment. So, I mean, just from what you're hearing, from what you saw last week too, amongst that group, I imagine that both players and coaches are in line with, they have confidence that Letovsky can be effective there, especially in a game that has been dubbed as a very, very physical game.
Well, Letovsky's a Big Ten lineman. There's no doubt about that in my mind. He's not perfectly refined at this point in his career, but he's 6'6", 320. He's enormous. He's an enormous. When you meet Henry Letovsky, you say this is what a Big Ten lineman is. That's what he is. And he's got some experience. He holds up fine. He's got. I mean, the rules really interesting, and he mentioned one of Henry's defining traits the other day, just briefly, but it's true. If you meet him, just his hands are enormous and they're enormously strong. I mean, and those hands help him in run blocking, pass blocking. So, they're fine with Henry. It's a kind of a depth question. It almost was like that to me. I didn't think there'd be a huge drop off with Henry Letovsky, but if Mazuka was out of the picture, you start thinking about depth. what do they have? Then what? You know, if Latowski or Justin would go down, then what? You know, so now everything's just kind of back in line, and it feels good. I think it's a good thing.
Hey, what's the most impressive thing to you about this team through 3 games?
That's a great question. I think it's. I hate this to always go to Dylan, but I mean, I'll just put it this way. It's gotten to the point quickly with Dylan when he throws an incompletion. You're like, oh, I wonder what happened on that.
Yeah. It's true.
He throws it slightly behind somebody. You're like, come on, Dylan. You know, I mean,
right.
He's like,
no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, like when he threw a couple incompletions late in the first half the other night, I caught myself going, geez, Dylan, those are passes you should make. It's just the expectation level for Dylan Raiola has risen quickly, and he's done it. He's that good. He's that guy. Now listen, I get it though. It's going to ramp up this week. This is going to test him. This is by far his biggest test. I'm not really even talking what he's facing personnel wise, which is good enough. It's just that whole conversation about post-snap reads, and he's not going to be able to read. He's not going to be able to see necessarily zone or man at the line of scrimmage pre-snap. There's going to be a lot of post-snap reads. That'll test him. Test him because they're veteran back there. They're good. This is good. That secondary is Illinois' strength. Make no mistake. That's the strength of the defense. And that those guys are savvy veteran guys. I guarantee they're thinking we'll get this freshman.
But can I insert something here? Just an observation. I agree with you. Their back end is really good. And I think Aaron Henry being a former defensive back, now they're DC, they're strong there. But isn't it interesting how, and I would need to chart this, and I would take you'd have to do a bunch of different things. But isn't it interesting how the thing they have done to hand Dylan success is very rarely does it seem like Nebraska is struggling to get the play in or get to the line of scrimmage and get the snap. I mean, they're getting I bet if we ask Satterfield how many times that you've taken it down to the 15 seconds and you're still talking, I bet he would say very rarely. We like to be between 18 and 20, and then we can just let Dylan go.
Oh, that's a great point. The operation's sound. The guy I work with, Bill Bush, mentioned that the other day, and it meant a lot to me that Bill would say it, that Nebraska's, they're sound. And that's a good example of it. It's not, you've seen Nebraska in recent years where it was kind of herky-jerky, and there were things happening that you'd be like, well, it just doesn't look like they're very well coached. But that's a great example. The operation is smooth. And I give Dylan, it's not all Dylan. It takes a lot of people doing the right things to have that, to end up with something that, like you described. But Dylan is a quick blinker. He's smart. He's just, I keep saying it, and people are going to get sick of it, so I'm going to stop here in the next week or so. But his strength is his brain. I mean, and he's awesomely talented, but physically, but his strength is his brain, his ability to process, and his willingness to prepare. That's what you see happening on Saturdays.
I had Foley talking on the coaches show this week. When you look at special team SIP, and then you hear Tristan Alvano is still maybe not 100% back. Now we're getting into that stretch of games where you think, okay, that could very well be important as far as what they're doing. Are you? I mean, I think I know the answer to this question, but I mean, are you pretty edgy about where things are, especially in the kicking game front? But hearing that he's maybe not 100%, does it give you a little bit more reason to relax and think, okay, once he's 100%, or is this still an ongoing thing?
No, it's ongoing. You'd rather have a kicking situation like Illinois. I mean, where you have two guys made a 59-yarder and one's made a 50-yarder. Two guys have made 50-yarders. No, of course, and it's an operation question too. the long snapper question. I mean, it's not unfair to put that in the conversation because they had to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they went to Aiden Flagey as the long snapper for PATs and field goals in this game. They made a change from Camden Watucky. Now Watucky's going to handle punts, but they didn't have to punt, so we don't know exactly what that looks like right now. Oh, of course, those things are germane to the discussion. Those are the kind of things that you absolutely worry about. And Ed Foley gave a great answer on statewide radio, whatever night that was, Wednesday or Tuesday. Great answer. He couldn't have phrased it any better in my mind. He said that, paraphrasing him, that, look, we feel pressure. We feel pressure on special teams because the offense and the defense are playing at near championship level. See, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. It goes back to what I was saying further in the conversation.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the thing that holds the team back. You don't want to be the player that holds the team back. You don't want to be the unit that holds the team back because it's a good team, but it's not without flaws. I described 90% of the teams out there. All these teams have flaws. It's how do you manage them, and that's part of the kind of the fun, really.
Hey, is the only way that Nebraska loses tomorrow night is themselves? I mean, I look at this matchup, and I'm not dissing, but I think if you go if you go back to last year and you look at that matchup, and a year later, man, the pendulum has swung, and it starts with 15 compared to Harburg, young Harburg starting that game. But there's just so many things about how the style, your coaching, your personnel that look so much different in this matchup a year later. So only way that Nebraska loses is they beat themselves? Turnovers?
I think Nebraska should win the game. I'm more in the camp of I think it's going to be tough, this fight. Now, again, the guy I keep invoking, this guy I work with, Bush, Bill Bush, who knows more than I do about football. He's more in line with your thinking. I give when I say what I do, I'm giving Bielema a lot of credit.
Yeah,
Bielema is a great coach. I mean, he's won 3 Big Ten championships. Say no more. Okay, he's won 3 Big Ten championships as a head coach. I know what happened at Arkansas. I get it. There's some balance in the discussion, but he'll have his team in the mindset of let's get this to the fourth quarter with a chance to win.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. If they're down 10 at halftime, they won't worry about it. He's orchestrated big wins on the road as Illinois' coach. They went and beat Penn State in his first year. Tough win, 9 overtimes. The next year they went and beat Wisconsin, a good Wisconsin team on the road. He knows what he's doing. And his staff is really good. I mean, it's a strong Big Ten staff. So I'm more of the mind. This is going to be stressed. It's going to be a stressful game.
If there's more big plays, or if there's big plays, period, for Nebraska, multiple big plays, do you think we're seeing that more in the running game in this matchup or in the passing game?
Oh, that's a good question. God, that's a good question. I hope I think I would guess the running game.
Yeah.
I think Dowdell is going to, again, I think Dowdell, I know I say it every week, but I know he's going to be key. I expect that he'll get 15 to 17 to maybe 20 carries in this game. I could see them leaning on Illinois, him getting some big yards. I could see Emmett Johnson doing that late too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what the picture is going to look like at running back, except it's crystallized to the point where it's going to be mostly 3 now. You know, I think that going with 4 in any appreciable way is I think that ship has sailed. I think it's going to be Dowdell early. You know, you're using Ramir in obvious, third down passing situations, and then it might be Emmett late as a closer. And if that's it, I don't mind the plan. I'd like to see a little more Dowdell, but Emmett Johnson he's asserted himself well. I mean, he's asserted himself, and he's playing well.
Hey, from your listeners and your viewers and on the chat, what's the significance of tomorrow night being a 400 sellout? What's the vibe you get from the fan base?
But the vibe, I don't know. I'm terrible at these kind of questions. I will preface it by saying that the vibe I get is it's more the excitement is more centered on the current, like that it's this. I think the fans understand that there's serious progress being made, and that's where most of the excitement comes for Friday night. Not a let's look back. It's not. I think it's more. This looks pretty good to us. This, and let's see some more tangible evidence. And then, by the way, this is the 400 sellout, and that could contribute that the celebratory nature of the night and the excitement accompanying the night can help the current enterprise. And I think that's what it is in my mind. And I think that's what Rule. I love Rule's response to just about everything, and his response was great. My job is to win this game. I can't. I'm not worried about 400 sellouts and all that. My job is to make this a memorable night in a good way. And again, I think this fan base. My sense of the fan base is they sense something is going very well right now, and they just want to see more tangible evidence. And I will tell you this: if Nebraska were to lose this game, I will not change my view that this program's going in the right direction. I'm not. It's going in the right direction. Yeah, I'd like to see more tangible evidence in the form of a win, but sometimes it doesn't always work that way.
Yep. Sip, thank you. Enjoy tomorrow. I'm sure where you guys are located, it'll be bumping at 6 a.m. in downtown Lincoln for a 7 o'clock kick.
Yeah, well, I'm 58, so I won't be bumping, but I'll be ready to.
Hey, yeah, I'll text you. I got something I need you to watch.
Okay.
Talk to him.
Watch.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, enjoy your walk with Bullet. I always appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Yeah, that's Stephen Imsip.
Can you? Oh God, just get 2 minutes out of him.
I would just like to watch it with him.
Yeah, and just be like, what am I watching? He answered the question I wanted to end with real quickly about. This goes back to everybody's preseason predictions as far as record wise. If you get to 4-0 after tomorrow night, does it change anything? And the reason I ask this is because there are many people who had whatever record they had, Nebraska being 4-0 at this point. But the fact that the prediction matches reality has been a very long time since we've seen that. Are you tempted to all of a sudden say, okay, now I might add a win to what I originally thought if you were a 7 or an 8 win? No, because it's been a while.
Just don't look like Illinois. Illinois has a certain brand. Good, not great. Don't look like Illinois. Look like a team that is right now between good and great. There you go.
Simple enough.
Will the sellout streak make it another 15 years? Because that would probably be in the range of 500.
Yeah.
Lots of things could change. The stadium could shrink.
Yep.
We could all be dead. So that would cut down on some attendance.
Yeah.
But so it probably is, if I'm doing the math, it's probably about 15 years and you would reach 500. Now, let's be honest. If Nebraska made it to 500 in the current climate.
Oh, my God. That would be something well worth.
Come on.
I mean, you're throwing it all out there then for that celebration. That would be crazy. And yet, is it tangible? Yeah. It absolutely is, especially if this thing is getting better and you're going to have improvements with the stadium. And you mentioned a key one. If there's less seating, but more comfort with that too, it's not out of the realm of possibility that happens, that we get that we see that at 500. Now, I thought
maybe it entices you. Got better Wi-Fi when they start a tipping system on 1890. So you like Raiola made that touchdown pass. You go into your app and you give him $5. Going to have to improve that Wi-Fi.
It was awful on Saturday.
Well, because they don't want you on your phones. They want you to watch the game.
Yeah,
all the POS systems are on a different network.
Yeah. It was.
They want you to watch the game.
You know,
But if they want you to tip players
you
for
have to improve-
performances,
you have to improve
the
that.
Wi-Fi is going to have to be better.
Yep. You're going to scan a QR code.
All right, Howard Griffin is going to come up after 9 for the Big Ten Network, the former Fighting Illini running back, of course, the face of the Big Ten Network, among others. He's got some thoughts. We'll pick his brain about some other games, including Iowa, Minnesota, and you got USC, Michigan. Intriguing weekend in the Big Ten. And Nebraska and Illinois get the stage tomorrow night on Big Fox. That window, 3 million is my prediction on viewers.
I think that's a good number
For that game.
Yep.
That's coming up. Also, Brian Edwards in the last hour on 1620 The Zone. All right, good opportunity to bring in our next guest because of his connection to his alma mater, but also you see him nearly on a daily basis. Of course, on his weekends, you feel like you know Howard Griffith a little bit better.
He's everyone's friend.
Face of the Big Ten
Yes.
Network. What are we, about 17 years now? You've been at BTN? Is that right?
Well, 18 years.
Wow.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I haven't done anything consecutively for 18 years outside of maybe being a screw up.
Hey, anything worth doing is worth doing right.
Hey,
Right, there you go.
you were here in the middle of August, and I know what you saw. And by the time you see a lot of practices, some start to run together. But you were pretty direct on your thoughts and positive thoughts about what you saw from Nebraska in practice. How does what you saw in person in August? How does that compare to what you've seen out of Nebraska for the first 3 games?
Yeah, it's been validated. I mean, and let's be clear. Sometimes I see things and I think it's one way, and I have absolutely no idea. It turns out to be absolutely wrong. But when I watched, where I watched them work practice, I really thought that they had a chance to have really a special season. And you look at the way they've been able to perform thus far, it's true to form. And I think when you go back and you look history-wise, and that second year, for whatever reason, things really seem to click when he's turning the program around. And it looked like Nebraska is well on their way. And it's an exciting time if you're a Nebraska fan and quite frankly a fan of college football, because I think Nebraska, when they're rolling, goodness, I mean, that's a great story and a great program to have, a lot of conversations about.
Well, and Howard, it was high praise how you described the quarterback room, and I know a lot of that starts with Dylan, but knowing that you have a Heinrich Haarberg coming back that won 5 games a year before, but then also another freshman that a lot of people are excited about it for his future, in Danny Kaelin. When you watched that group just in the time that you had a chance to see them, what collectively stood out about just those 3, and even some of the other guys that are putting in some of the work too?
The way they interact. Because for me, so much of practice, you can watch guys throw the ball around, and we come in there. Sometimes the practice is very vanilla because we're there sometimes. So for me, one of the things that's important is, what kind of command of the huddle? How do guys interact? How do they interact with other positions? How are they coached? And what I saw in that quarterback room is something that you don't really see a lot of places when you talk about the high-end caliber, and also the storylines, right? I mean, listen, there is a true freshman that is in a backup situation that was still out there competing, wasn't moping, knowing that he's not going to ultimately be the starter this year, but really had a great positive attitude. And to me, that's what really stuck out about the room. And I don't know that we've really seen this offense opened up the way that I think it can. But I think that's part of that is by design. Maybe we'll see some of that Friday night, but it's certainly a fun room to watch. And it's very unusual in today's college football with the transfer portal and all the things that go along with NIL, that you could have a room with the caliber of talent that is there and committed.
Let's stick with that and let's bring Illinois into the conversation, Howard, because they haven't given up. They haven't allowed anybody to throw for more than 150 yards. They're taking the football away. Xavier Scott and Miles Scott are really good. There's the old saying that cornerbacks tell the truth, safeties lie. And I think Aaron Henry does a really good job of mixing up coverages. They're going against a freshman quarterback. Walk me through the advantages that Illinois could have that they could cause issues for Dylan pre-snap or at the snap because of what they want to do in the back end.
Well, I think ultimately it's about, tricking the quarterback's eyes and being able to disguise things. And you talk about being able to have that safety play. That's why I think it's important when there's a young quarterback involved, no matter what the talent level is, that you're able to complement that with a run game. A run game is going to be important because with that, when that happens, if you may not be able to, you may have to add that safety down to a box where he's in more of a position where it can be a tail if you can get a pre-snap read. And I think that's the part of it. There'll be a lot of mental game pre-snap things, I think, on both sides of the football, whether Offensively, you put a person in motion to see how the coverage rotates or whether they're playing man or zone to get a jump on what's going to ultimately happen and what they're going to see. But ultimately, it all starts up front. You've got to be able to allow the quarterback some time to be able to decipher what's going on. And I think that's absolutely, what Illinois is going to try to do. You talk about trying to, give him different coverages and forcing him. He's going to throw it, and they know he can throw it. But it's about forcing him to really second guess or be a beat off. And that's where they're trying to get to. And they've done a really good job. You talk about just the growth from last year to this year. It's not only with the players. I think it's also with the play calling and Aaron Henry, and also having a healthy secondary and a healthy defensive team.
Well, and on the flip side of that, with the Illinois offense, we're seeing Luke Altmaier, who's not turning the football over, who's making good decisions. A team that we always think of Brett Bielema teams and even Illinois teams. I mean, if you go back to Lovie Smith and the amount of running backs that they had that were very effective, that it's going to be a physical team. When you look at their offense and what teams are going to be challenged with the most when playing Illinois and starting with Nebraska on Friday, what stands out about this offense and what they want to do and how they can be successful going forward?
But you look at what they've been able to do with their receivers. They've really been able to make a lot of plays downfield. Some of those 50-50 balls they've been able to come up with. Altmaier has been really patient this year. And that was another person when I walked away from camp. He was a guy that, was a lot different than what he looked like a year ago. He was comfortable being there. He's comfortable leading. And you saw some of those things. You saw the physical things that were there. Those are always there. But you still have to try to engage and get involved in the players in the locker room. You have to ingratiate yourself to the team, which I think is one of the more underrated things that transfer portal guys have to do, particularly at the quarterback position, because you come in, you're expected to start, but you still have to fit in. You're trying to fit in, and a lot of times it's a little bit of a struggle. But he looks so much comfortable second year in the offensive scheme, and he's having some success. But this is a team again with Tony White. I mean, he's destined to be a head coach here soon. But what he's able to do with the system that he runs, it's really like you can't be late as an offensive lineman. You see something, you have to go now, because it's all predicated on really making split-second decisions, not knowing exactly where the pressure is coming from. And all it takes is for a rusher to get on the edge of a lineman, and it causes and disrupts everything that's going on. So I think this is really, you talk about fun matchups. This is really going to be a fun matchup because, listen, I think when you look at Dylan, he's been pressured a lot this year. That's the way you go after young quarterbacks. You try to pressure them. Can they make the big plays down the field? There are going to be 3 or 4 plays that he's going to make, that he's going to need to make to change the outcome of this game in the passing game. And he can make all the throws, no question about that. But can he do it and be consistent on those 3 or 4 plays that are going to be needed, whether it's a second and long, third and short, trying to get it into a tight window? We're going to learn a lot more about him as he continues to grow as a quarterback.
Howard Griffith from the Big Ten Network joining us. Let's now quickly, we'll go around the league. Who do you think you know more about 3 weeks into 3 games into the season, USC or Michigan?
Ooh. I would say I know more about Michigan, and here's why. I think as we look at what's happening now at the quarterback position for them, we knew that there were going to be some challenges. They obviously were going to play a new guy because JJ wasn't going to be back. But I think they have not been able to get going necessarily offensively on the offensive line, although they put up numbers last week. Quarterback position has turned the football over. Yes, they've had JJ had some 3 turnover games, but you knew who he was going to be. When we watch Alex Orji come in, and now he's going to be the starter this week, primarily last year, he just turned around and handed the football off. You look at the opportunities he got to get into the game this year, he was turning around, handing the football out, as opposed to the bootleg he threw for a touchdown. I think he has to continue to expand what they're doing. But the question also is, what is Tuttle, who has been hurt, because it's stylistic as well. Because I think Alex Orji is going to give you more of the run game. So you would look more like, if I had to compare it, more like an Alabama when you have Tuttle or Warren, and that's more of a pro style passing is what you're trying to get to. So, they made a decision that they wanted to be a pro style, at least from the outside, the way I look at it. And that's why, Orji didn't, I guess, become the winner of that job, but now he's in there. I think he gives them I thought of this when I left there. I thought this all year that he gives them the best chance to win. He's not going to beat Texas by himself, right? He's not going to beat USC by himself, but he gives an extra dimension that I think they have to have as a run team to be able to make things happen. And also, I mean, you look at the secondary. This is a really good secondary that they have, but they have not looked great in the first couple of weeks of the season.
It's weird to talk about this next game being so early in the schedule, but Floyd of Rosedale in Minneapolis, going to be a primetime affair between Minnesota and Iowa. If you look at both of these teams' losses, quarterback play was bad. Brosman was not good against North Carolina. McNamara was not good against Iowa State. If it comes down to quarterback play in this game, and I get it, one defense is slightly stronger, who do you trust more to make the necessary plays?
That is a great question, because now you put me in a corner that I have to answer, right? But we were doing our pre-show call yesterday for Saturday's show, and when we got to this game, I said, hey, this is a classic Jerry DiNardo. You have to play your offhand. What's offhand? Because both teams are going to run it. Yeah. Both teams are going to play outstanding defense. Which quarterback is going to ultimately step up and make the plays that are needed? Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, I have no idea. And this is why, because they both have struggled. Yeah. McNamara will play. He has put a good game together, and then it wasn't a great game. Now he's put a good game together. What are we getting ready to get next, right? Mm-hmm. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's why I think that the team that ultimately is able to win the rushing battle, that quarterback is probably going to be the team that's going to be able, that's going to walk away with the victory, because there's going to be less pressure on him to make some of those throws. Yeah. When I was talking about Dillon and talking about Altmaier and those guys, there's 3 or 4 plays that they are going to have to make as quarterbacks for either team to win. It's not even, I don't think it's 3 or 4 in that game. It's being able to convert a third down and being able to keep the chains alive for either one of those teams. But we'll find out a lot more. But this is a classic game where it's going to be, let's beat them up, let's be physical, and let's go. But Caleb Brown is playing really well and has come on for Iowa this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we always enjoy chopping it up and always enjoy your work on the screen. Have a great weekend. And as always, we appreciate it, Howard.
Hey, anytime, guys. Enjoy the rest of the week and have a great weekend.
Thank you. That's Howard Griffith from the Big Ten Network, former Illini running back. If Howard was selling tickets, probably the Minnesota-Iowa game is not the game that he's going to sell you a ticket to.
No. And it is. And I think he's spot on about, who is able to be more effective, because I was going to use more of Johnson, and you're going to see Minnesota with more of a 2 running back approach. But I mean, you saw that North Carolina game and Brosmer. We all saw the McNamara game against Iowa State, and even the first half last week. I mean, that wasn't pretty. And so it's who, I mean, does it come down to who just screws up less? Because
sometimes in football that happens.
Absolutely. And in this standpoint too, this is where I think Iowa's very comfortable. Iowa they've learned to live with shoddy quarterback play here as of late, and they've still been able to maximize what they can get out of from a win-loss standpoint. So I don't think they're necessarily uncomfortable when they have to play that type of game, even despite some bad quarterback play, because their defense is so damn good. And now you do finally have a running back that looks like a next level type dude. It's just, do you get into a situation, and this is where I think it's with Tim Lester's approach offensively compared to what you saw Brian Ferentz, where there would just be things in the game where you're like, why are you doing that? Can Tim Lester avoid that? Can Tim Lester avoid, hey, okay, now we need Air McNamara here. I mean, if all of a sudden that's the case, well, then Minnesota's got a shot.
Interesting. So Iowa has the lowest total of the weekend again.
Yeah,
at 35.5.
Jeez.
But they've gone over the total in their 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, last year they only did it twice. This is a weird that it's on the 21st of September that the pig is up.
It's usually in October, usually cold weather.
Mm-hmm. Back to the USC Michigan game. Wasn't it always about the D with USC?
Mm-hmm.
They fixed the D.
Yeah.
Things are going places.
Yeah.
And they're much improved. Now, we're still in the incubator stage.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah.
So they averaged giving up 6.1 yards per game last year. They're at 5.4.
Mm-hmm.
It's baby steps. But if they're much improved on offense or on defense, and I think in the trenches, they're a lot more physical than I remember that Lincoln Riley has been in his brief time at USC. They're always going to be good offensively. He's a quarterback whisperer, and Moss looks like a guy, like another one in the line.
Yeah, he does, definitely. And you never worry about that with Lincoln Riley when it comes to that part of it.
So offensively, they're very sharp.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. But I think it's always been about the D, because if they fix that, USC is a brand.
Mm-hmm.
They just got a 5-star wide receiver out of Utah. When programs that have been blue bloods, when they are able to go outside of their area and recruit, I mean, look at Miami. Miami could stay close to home, but then they'd grab a California guy.
Mm-hmm.
USC was going into Georgia.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they have the D fixed, USC is scary, because the USC brand is solid, and they'll get it rolling. Big test this weekend. It's a huge game for Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, this is that game where you like what you've seen with USC, and I think that was what was holding a lot of people back from going all in on USC, as far as could they, really smoke the over at 7.5. And if their defense was going to be a legitimate defense too, I mean, Eric Gentry's playing out of his mind right now too, but the whole part of it, when we see these transitions into the conference, and the thing that I'm sure USC is sick and tired of hearing about, is the physical play that you are going to experience in the Big Ten. Michigan is a completely different offensive team for a lot of the reasons, Howard, and we've brought up before too, with the quarterback position. But what they do still have is a physical brand. What they do have defensively is a physical style, and they've got a good defense. If they're able to put that forward on Miller Moss, and I love USC's receivers, and just not just Branch either. Kyron Hudson's an absolute stud too. McCree's a stud. Like, they've got all of that. But what happens when they get punched in the mouth a few times on Saturday with Michigan on the road in the big house like that? So this is more of that, welcome to the Big Ten. Let's see what you're really all about. I think USC's the better team. I think from a skill standpoint, there's no question about it. But from a defensive standpoint, where I think the matchup is probably a lot better than most maybe thought coming out of the offseason last year. But it's more about, how does Michigan's defense stack up with what is going to be a high-powered offense?
USC wins on Saturday in Ann Arbor. They have a neutral site win over LSU, road win at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be in the college football playoff conversation. And then keep this in mind. Then if you look at their schedule, the 3 toughest teams on USC schedule all come to LA.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State, Nebraska in the middle of November, and then they finish with Notre Dame. Those are the after Saturday, that's the 3 toughest games. By the way, the Nebraska USC game is sold out.
Mm.
So is Nebraska Wisconsin USC. I think there'll be a lot of
red.
Badger and Husker red that'll be in LA.
Yes, there will.
They can all go to Fatburger. Report back to us on our conversation.
Well, I think if you polled Nebraska fans, I think it would be over 90% would be very optimistic that they'll be going to a bowl game. But again, when you get to go out to LA, it's kind of like a pre-bowl game trip too. So I think that one is always going to be very, very exciting for people to go out to. I think it is great to see USC, though, defensively, what they at least are showing right now compared to what they looked like last year. And there's just something about having so much skill on the offensive side, but you can't do anything about it because you cannot stop a nosebleed. Maybe I had this team wrong as far as what why people were not ready to go all in. Maybe some of it was just the transition to the Big Ten, and a lot of people felt Oregon was more built for that transition than USC. But if that defense is for real, and I'm not trying to say that you're going to know this week because I just don't think Michigan's offense, I know they don't have the same thing they had last year. But if that defense, though, looks the part again, they win convincingly, or they even win by a couple of scores, 10 or more. Oh, yeah, the USC hype train, if it already isn't gaining a lot of traction, will be completely at full steam ahead.
I was just looking at the competition that Nebraska will have on the boob tube tomorrow. The legendary ACC matchup, Stanford and Syracuse play at 6:30 tomorrow night.
Right, yeah.
That
Doctors
game's
against
on
broadcasters.
ESPN. Then you have Nebraska and Illinois are on Big Fox. And then one of those sickos Appreciate You games.
Appalachian State?
No, they play tonight.
Okay.
San Jose State and Wazoo is
Okay.
on the CW at 9 o'clock tomorrow night.
On that new Pac-12 TV agreement, CW.
No, tonight, South Alabama plays Appalachian State. South Alabama, last game they played, they scored 87.
Yes, 87.
It was 52-7 at half.
They are
95 Huskers.
They are a 7-point underdog tonight against Appalachian State, who Google their helmets. Appalachian State's
helmets.
wearing fire helmets. Kids still stay fire?
Oh,
I think
they
so.
should.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Yeah, that's the lone Thursday game. What would you rather watch? A game from Boone, North Carolina? Beautiful setting.
It is.
The leaves haven't started to turn yet, but they'll be drinking moonshine all day there.
You drink enough, you can pretend they're
Up there in the
colors.
mountains of upstate Carolina. I guess South Carolina call it upstate. North Carolina just call it up in the mountains. So that's the lone game. So you're either watching that or you're watching Aaron Rodgers go against a Brissett.
I'm going to Boone, North Carolina, but I prefer college football.
I mean, I'll still watch
And I like TV.
Oh, those are nice. Yeah. They're sweet. Yeah. Fire. That's appropriate. Very fire.
Would you like to describe what the logo is on the side of the Appalachian State helmet that they'll be wearing tonight?
Is it it's the state with, what is that? Zoom this in. Oh, no, it's not. It's like the side profile of the beard. And
the hell is that?
Yeah, never mind. At first I thought it was a silhouette of the state, but it's actually it's a dude with a top hat and a beard, and is it like just a collar?
This is the human version of
his
Mr.
collar?
Peanut.
Looks like a guy like you'd stereotype of somebody you might see sitting on their porch in the mountains of
In
North
the
Carolina.
mountain, yeah.
Warm out today.
Yeah.
Warm out yesterday. Even warmer today.
No, those are cool though. Honestly, I just thought it was a silhouette of the state.
They're just very proud to be from North Carolina.
Yeah, and I realized, there's a beard there. Oh, that's a hat. Never mind. Okay.
Tribute to facial hair.
And I realized it wasn't Louisiana. That would be the boot there. So never mind.
That'd be very awkward.
It would, if they
School
said
based in
Louisiana.
Boone, North Carolina was like, hey, tribute to our friends from Louisiana.
Yeah, we're always thinking of them. Ever since Katrina, we've always been thinking about them. So, yeah.
Who dat?
I've been to Boone, North Carolina.
Have you?
By the way, the
for
alma mater
basketball?
of Luke Combs.
Okay.
Beautiful mountain community in North Carolina. Like you go Asheville, you go up to Boone.
Yeah.
You got where Western Carolina is as well.
Every time they show the overhead baseball field shot, because it's all surrounded by the trees when it comes.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's about as good as it gets.
Like Field of Dreams, and Terrence Mann goes into the trees.
He did too.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah. We didn't get a lot of that when.
Rest in peace.
When we
It's like we eulogized James Earl Jones.
I haven't
last
gotten
week.
a lot of that with Reese. With James Earl Jones, though, we didn't mention the big cornfield. Like we didn't make the metaphor. Of,
He went to the big cornfield in the sky.
Yeah, that he went to the big cornfield in the sky. Even though he literally did go into the cornfield in the movie. I feel like that was a missed opportunity, unless that was said in other outlets that I just was not aware of.
Just said, tell your sister he was right.
I mean, Terrence Mann, come on. Yeah. Tell me how it is. I got to find out for you. I got to let you know. No?
No, there are people like that do come back from death. They have near-death experiences, and then they tell you about
well,
it.
ask any Motley Crue band member.
Well, some of them are like Walking Dead.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
You're talking about an overdose and then coming back to life. Like, was it Nikki Sixx? I think it was Nikki Sixx.
Who wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure it was Nikki Sixx.
Except Scott Weiland. He didn't come back.
That was where Kickstart My Heart.
Wow.
That was where Kickstart My Heart came from.
Can we have some positivity? Somebody name a kid that's just been born that's not related to somebody at the Zone.
Geez. I don't know. I miss my. Don't they still do that on the various morning shows when they have the newborns?
Births?
I think you have to be 7.
Oh, damn it!
Here's
a random 7-year-old.
Here's Randy. He's 7 days old.
Oh, is it 7 days or 7 years? Do they do both?
I don't think they do 7 days.
That would be weird.
Something about 7
Just
wives
really
and St.
awkward,
Ives.
actually. 7 months?
Yeah, maybe they do
You do 7 months. Yeah, kid could maybe kind of comprehend that.
After 7 seconds,
Takes on some type of human form that's kind of cute, as opposed to 7 when you have weird bumps and stuff on your head.
You look like Quado.
Yeah, Reese was hairy, man. I thought we were gonna have to get the old manscaping going. Like, geez, buddy, you got hair on your shoulders. He did.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I know.
It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, Brian Edwards going to join us in about 15 minutes.
Shabuzi.
Yes, the kids like it.
Song of the summer.
Nice
I like
song.
Shabuzi.
Even I like it.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like it?
Post Malone and Morgan Wallen got in a little bit late. This is the song of the summer.
Although there was some confusion of everybody in the club getting tipsy, Jaquan, and then everybody in the bar getting tipsy too.
Well,
Shabuzi was towing a line there.
This was their generation. That was ours.
Yeah.
So
it still works.
And I like it.
All right, Brian Edwards will join us in about 15 minutes. We'll see if he is on team the only way that hot dogs taste good or cut up and placed in macaroni and cheese.
I've had that.
The only way they're good?
Orlovsky on ESPN yesterday said the only way that hot dogs are good is when you cut them up into little pieces and put them in macaroni and cheese.
Stop.
And he got a lot of, like, he has bad food takes. Like,
That's
he
a
could
bad
work
food
at
take.
1620.
Yeah. Because that's a bad
But
one.
but a lot of people were like on board.
No.
Of course.
I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. That was good when I was a child.
I mean,
but you can still enjoy a good dog. Does he not go to baseball games?
Yeah, he didn't strike me as a baseball guy.
Okay, I know he golfs a lot. You're telling me on the turn he's not going for a, what do they call him, a grease missile?
Yes.
Yeah, you're not reaching
You
for.
want to call it the glizzy?
Yeah, no, I'm not calling it a glizzy.
Instead, we'll stick with grease missile.
I'm not that cool, but he's not reaching for a grease missile on the turn. Come on, man.
One, I'm taking two.
Well, some
Be
places
better than
some places in this country you don't have access to like a good Chicago dog,
Indeed.
which will change your life.
Well, yeah, a good Chicago dog is fine, but I mean, you're telling me like just if you're a little bit hungry, you just played 9. Hot dog just does. I mean, I don't know if anything hits the spot better.
There's a couple golf courses around here that
They frown upon that, or they're just not good glizzies.
Them hot dogs have been on the rollers for a long time.
They've been the Seinfeld one, like the real wrinkled one.
You gotta. Well, let me taste this. All right, B. Edwards joins us in a little bit.
It's perfectly good. Interesting texture.
So yesterday, oh God, that's just shriveled up. Look what we have to get used to.
Yeah, exactly.
The 2025 Pro Football Hall of Fame class took a step from induction yesterday with the big announcement. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think he's going to make it.
He's going to be one of the more debated players that is up for induction to the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your 2 Super Bowls. Now, he also was the MVP, 4-time Pro Bowl.
Yep.
He won the Peyton Award. His stats are kind of pedestrian, but in this ring society, Eli is going to make the Hall of Fame, but should Eli be in on the first ballot? See, I think I think he is going to be one of the more discussed candidates for the Hall of Fame in a long time.
No.
Okay.
And I know I'm about to receive a text message in the next 5 minutes if he's listening.
From DT?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he will yell at me.
So I think Gates, Vinatieri, Kuechly.
Yeah.
I think Torrey Holt is a
big
Hall
game.
of Fame.
Yeah, big game Torrey Holt. Hell
and
yeah.
then here's another one that's in this class. Is he first ballot or is it, well, he'll eventually get in, Marshawn Lynch?
Yeah, that's another one that if I had to choose between Eli and Marshawn Lynch as far as first time, I would say Marshawn Lynch gives me a little bit more of an edge.
Would have won a second straight Super Bowl, just giving him the damn ball.
Right. But he also, I mean, even in playoff, people forget even in the Beastquake game, that was not a good Saints team. That was the Saints team that just happened to profit from a very, very good division. So his numbers were good as well. So you can add the best of the postseason world, but also the regular season numbers, even on some bad Seahawk teams. I say Saints. They beat the Saints, by the way. That he at least brings that to the equation. I'm telling you, we maybe we'll have to bring him on. Dave Tollefson will give you some very compelling, convincing stuff on why Eli should be a first ballot.
I don't feel like angering him. I'm going to say Eli goes in.
But it's one of those things I just feel like I can't say first ballot.
Pretty good class.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say Eli doesn't get in because Belichick is up for it next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he will get in.
Well, I think they want to get him in before he dies.
But I mean,
that would be ideal. Yeah. I mean, he's not 90.
Well, but you never know.
Yeah, that's true.
Life
happens.
I think, and I'm not trying to be dark here.
That's my job.
I think the Steve McMichael situation, where he rightfully got in the Hall of Fame, will change the perception of certain candidates for the Hall of Fame.
Sure,
agreed.
But I'm okay with that. I will get interested in this when it gets down to they cut to 50 on who is not in.
Yep.
But I think Gates, Kuechly, Vinatieri are 3 no-brainers in this current class.
Man, Gates would kill it today, and he was damn good when he played.
Well, Kuechly you could measure, but
Luke Kuechly was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, concussions sent him to the sidelines where he's in coaching now.
Yeah, those are
because I think Kuechly could still be playing.
Oh, he would be. Yeah, those are some of the toughest images of watching him come off the field after that too. Because we've been talking about Tua when he was hobbling and and then goes back down. The Kuechly one, the last one, oh my gosh, that was scary. Like that really was.
He doesn't have a Hall of Fame resume, but when will Baker Mayfield start making commercials again?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed
That's missing. We need those.
Remember, he's
progressive.
He was the face of the NFL.
Yep.
Him and his wife, who is from here, they look good on television together. Then the Browns had to make a decision: do we we bring him back and pick up his last year? They decided not to. Then they made a worse decision by guaranteeing Deshaun Watson. But Baker Mayfield quietly,
Browns being the Browns,
Baker Mayfield has quietly gone to Tampa. There's something I like Tampa. I like the Atlantic side better than the Gulf side in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
But there is something like Tampa St. Pete. Tampa St. Pete feels more like a small town compared to like Miami.
You're not the first.
I'm going to take your word on this.
If, by the way, one of those places hosts Nebraska in a bowl game. But there's something about Tampa. Brady goes there, got a new life. Mayfield goes to Tampa. People need to realize they might have something in Tampa. They're 2-0. Todd Bowles has kept his job. I didn't think Todd Bowles was very good in head coach 1.0.
I would agree.
Head coach 2.0, I thought.
I think he's worse.
But they're 2-0. And remember, they played in a divisional playoff game last year. They won a playoff game, got to Detroit. Baker Mayfield's kind of having like a renaissance, and he's playing like pretty well.
Yeah, he's playing really good.
Could a guy that was like the face of the NFL that did all the commercials, then disappeared, could they come back?
Yes, you could bring the progressive. It was a progressive, right?
Cam Newton never came back.
No.
He started tossing dudes.
Remember when he was the face? He was going to be the NFL 60.
Yeah,
with
the play 60. Yeah.
And then he started to go down.
And the kid warming up his arm.
They took him off television. Got to watch out for Kelsey. I mean, slow start. They're going to erase all those commercials. But Baker Mayfield, I wonder if they could do something funny as a guy who is like making a comeback.
Florida
easily. And he, first of all, he would lean into it because he's got a good sense of humor. Ththose progressive. It was progressive, right? Am I not making that up?
Yes.
The Protect the House ones. He was awesome. He was hilarious. Those were great.
Maybe you want to buy insurance.
When they do the nosy next door neighbor and they're just talking crap about everyone, and then when he goes, "But great person, yeah, but great. Oh, they're great. They're great persons, but they're he was great. So why couldn't Progressive get back into bed with him?
Who they have Flo right now, right?
Yeah.
Flo's
Flo
always
and Jamie.
Flo's always a place.
Jamie is starting to look like Flo.
He is.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to look like Clay Aiken. We're putting like a lot of stuff on that face right now.
That's not Willie Mays Aiken.
I feel like they're placeholders for like the next fun little campaign. There you go. I think you got the campaign right there. A little comeback. They're creative people. They can do something with it.
There is NFL football tonight. Will be here on the Zone. Aaron Rodgers and the New England Patriots. This is the third game in 10 days for the Jets.
Yeah.
They're going after the other Achilles.
It's their home opener. They're playing the Patriots. They don't have to deal with Belichick anymore. But hey, Mayo, this is the hiring of don't overthink it. Now, they fly around on defense.
Yep.
Offense, they're a mystery machine. But they could be 2-0. Remember, they got beaten overtime by Seattle. They're a 6.5-point underdog. They're playing the Jets, who the Jets are beat up on the defensive line, and Aaron Rodgers has been okay. I don't know. 6.5 seems like a trap line.
I would take.
I think the Jets win.
I think New England's getting the points. I take New England getting the points.
All right. They do have some injuries for the Patriots, and I don't know if Jacoby Brissett is allowed to throw more than 10 yards down the field.
Yeah, to anybody else other than the tight end.
Why don't we?
I believe their two leading receivers are both tight ends.
Why don't they take the regulators off quarterbacks?
I don't know.
They're not allowed to throw it downfield.
What was I reading?
Just go to the wing tee while we're at it.
Quarterback passing yards are down. Points per drive is down offensively, like almost down by a decent amount, like 20 yards in between passing yards average here in the first couple of weeks compared to the last three.
Power football.
We don't have time, but I have a rant on this. that
Make time.
the quarterback position has gotten harder
Mhm.
since Mahomes came into the league.
Yeah. I think it's fair.
Too high safeties, rush ends, the way the game is called.
Mel Kiper crying about too high
Things are
safeties.
not necessarily weighted towards the offense as much as they used to be. And then there's also quarterbacks aren't ready to play in the NFL. And you got to dumb down the offense, but the defenses are better.
They are.
I mean, they also, the way the game is being played, there is not as much space available on the field because offensive and defensive guys are faster. And you can't just pick apart open spots on the field.
Well, would you subscribe to the thought that a good running game also helps?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
running backs have value at the beginning of the season.
And well, the other part about that is too, yards per carry running backs this year compared to, again, the last 3 years, it was always going up like anywhere between maybe a half to a yard. It's actually stayed the same. It goes all the way back to 2021's number. So as it was going up, now it's come back down. So that's probably also not helping.
But I
quarterbacks.
also think 1A, 1B, 1C, whatever you want to put it at, why passing yards are down and quarterback play where you are more likely to go, I think that guy's going to be a failure than a success.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. From the college game to the NFL game, the one position group that I think has been poor in development in college, and now you're seeing it rear its ugly head in the NFL, is offensive line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Offensive line development in college has
Oh,
taken a
God.
step back, and that's
Yeah.
impacting the NFL.
I know it all too well right now with the team that I so hardly root for every week.
Brian Edwards will join us next about Let's just say we're blessed to have this weekend where we have Cal Twitter in our lives, and they play FSU. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to welcome in our Vegas Insider, VegasInsider.com. It is their senior handicapper, Brian Edwards. Lots of great content you can find on his Twitter account, VegasBEdwards.com. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Good. We have a big card here, so let's dive right into it. Tonight, Patriots, Jets. The Jets hated the Patriots because Belichick would always beat them. Well, that's different now. I think I look at the Pats, B. We expected them to be so bad that they actually look like they have a pulse, and they could be 2-0 if it's not for the overtime loss to Seattle. They're at MetLife Thursday night, third game in 10 days for the Jets. They're getting 6. Walk me through how you'll handicap this game.
Well, I made the Jets 4-point favorite. I don't like to take road teams in the Thursday game on a short week, but I don't know. I've never flown from Boston to New York, but I would imagine it's less than an hour flight, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. The Pats are running the ball effectively with Ramondre Stevenson. They're playing really good defense. The Jets have not looked that impressive to me. Need to give a hat tip to Will Levis for not taking care of the ball to get last week's win. I mean, they might have maybe won without his careless turnover, but
he does that.
Yeah, I like the Jets. I like the Patriots +6. I saw a 6.5 at South Point. Who knows how the line movement will be today. If your number gets to 6.5, might as well buy the half point to 7. But I'm good with Pats at +6.
By the way, I meant to ask you this when we left last week because you had your Jaden Daniels prop bet. When are we going to start getting into the Kyle Pitts prop bet that was so lucrative last year?
Well, I had it in week 1 for an L, and then it was an L again in week 2, but I didn't play it Monday night. Unfortunately, it appears as if Zach Robinson is almost as inept as Arthur Smith, and Kirk Cousins doesn't have the smarts as former quarterbacks to just force feed the guy because he catches everything. He's always open. They have him running stupid 5-7 yard routes. It's just insanity to me, but you already knew that.
I had to ask because he's on my fantasy team too, so I was I'm feeling your frustration there. College football, boy, the love fest for Indiana continuing right now. They're a big number against Charlotte at 28, and you like the Hoosiers.
Yes, I do. Now let's buy that half point from 28.5 to 28. Just in case. But Indiana looks fantastic. Curtis Rourke, 74.3 completion percentage, 755 passing yards, 7 touchdowns without a pick. He also has a rushing touchdown. Indiana's just looked fantastic so far. I love Kurt Signetti. And Charlotte's down to his third-string quarterback, who is actually their starter from last year, but he had a 4-10 TDI-INT ratio last year. I like the Hoosiers big time.
Let's talk about Georgia Tech here. Georgia Tech's kind of been all over the map, but they are at Louisville. They're getting a big number. The ACC is wide open. I'm sure we're going to find out a little bit more about Louisville, but Georgia Tech's getting 10. You like the Ramblin' Wreck with 10 on the road?
Yep. I made Louisville -7 in this game. Brent Key has thrived as an underdog in this 16 games as a dog, 13-3 against the spread with 10 outright wins. He's been a double-digit underdog 10 times, 7-3 against the spread with 5 outright wins. Haynes King was a turnover machine at A&M, and then he led the ACC in interceptions last year, despite leading Tech to its first bowl game since 2018 and its first bowl win since 2016. But he's playing like an All-American right now. 76.4 completion percentage, 6-1 TDI-INT ratio, 962 passing yards, 158 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 6.3 yards per carry average. I like Tech catching double digits.
This next pick, I'm trying to figure out if this is more from the heart or if this is the big brain that you have, Brian, and that is because of the way that you labeled Florida State and your picks as F-stick you. But Cal, I mean, do we look at a world where Florida State starts off the season at 0-3 against Cal, who is a 2.5 point dog?
Well, I think we're looking at Florida State starting 0-4, and they have looked awful. I won't bore you with the stats, but they've been horrible in the trenches on both sides of the ball. As a home favorite under Norvell, 8-13 against the spread, whereas Justin Wilcox as a road dog, 18-9 ATS as a dog of any sort, 30-15 ATS. They get Jaden Ott back this week. He rested last week, only had 11 rushing yards on 10 carries at Auburn. But the backup, Javian Thomas, has been awesome, 7.8 yards per carry average. The quarterback play has been vastly improved. Mendoza, 70.1 completion percentage, 5-1 TDI and T ratio. They're getting a lot of good defensive play from some transfers. Two of them made the ESPN's September all-transfer team. And we saw Auburn only score 7 points until they got a second touchdown, like mid-ish, late fourth quarter, to get 14 points against Cal D. I like Cal to win outright.
There's a game that I'm surprised that Game Day is not at, and that's in Stark Vegas for Florida, Mississippi State. Bad weekend last weekend for your Gators. Mississippi State, even worse weekend. They got beat by Toledo. Mississippi State, to me, has been very underwhelming. Their offensive and defensive lines, they haven't really showed me much. It is a step up in competition. They're going to play the two quarterbacks. Mississippi State at home is an underdog. Heart, head, where are we going with this matchup between Florida and Mississippi State?
Total scrub game. Both teams are horrible. Mississippi State was actually down 38-3 at home to Toledo in the third quarter last week. However, they're getting good quarterback play from Blake Shapen, 70.1 completion percentage, 834 passing yards, 7-1 TDI and T ratio. He's got a big-time weapon in Kevin Coleman. Eugene Wilson, questionable best player on Florida's offense, maybe the whole team. Missed last week's game to A&M. Don't know if he's going to play this week. Napier as a favorite at Florida, 3-8-1 against the spread. Even going back his last 2 years at Louisiana, combining it with Florida tenure, he's 9-19-1 against the spread, last 29 as a favorite, and he's 7-16 straight up at Florida against Power 5 competition. I like Mississippi State plus 6 or 6.5.
Big game in Norman, Oklahoma between the Sooners and Tennessee. Are you looking at Tennessee favored, or are you looking at some of the team totals here with Tennessee?
I'm just bitter that I didn't have games of the year line options on this one, because could have had Tennessee minus 2 at DraftKings this time last week. At 7, I mean, I'd still gun to the head. I have to pick it. I'd probably still go Vols, but I'm just going to go team total over 32.5. I mean, I know it's going to be a much better defense than they faced. I'm sure Venables will have a good plan, but Tennessee just looks like such a juggernaut offensively. I got to have a little something on Nico and his offense. So just team total over 32.5.
Tennessee's averaging 64 a game. Oklahoma can't run the football. That Tennessee defensive line against OU's offensive line. Ouch. Let's get into the NFL. Let's do 2 games here. Washington and Cincy, and then the 2-0 Bucks take on the Broncos. Both teams hopefully will wear white, as they seem to wear a lot. Let's first start with Washington, which all of a sudden finds themselves in a race in the NFC East.
Yeah, I love Jaden Daniels. Said he was better than Caleb Williams going into the draft. Certainly looks like it so far. It's just too many points. I mean, we don't know about T. Higgins. I know he's questionable. He's been doubtful the last couple weeks. Still a little early to know. I made the Bengals 4.5. And, we can catch more than 7 here. Give me the Commanders. And then, I don't really like laying points with the Bucs, but they've looked really good so far. Denver, not so much. Baker Mayfield looks outstanding. And Bo Nix has 0 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. So I will lay it with the Bucs, and that's my eliminator pool or suicide pool or whatever you call it entry.
One quick thing here. It's not on your card, but are you looking at the switch in the Oklahoma State-Utah game on the line that happened last night?
Yeah, I mean, Cam Rising's still questionable for the 2023 season opener against Florida. I don't know about what he is this week, but yeah. I mean, I see he's not playing, so I'm off that game. That's a shame, man, because, gosh, he was looking good, and I think Utah's a top 10 team when he is healthy. Let me squeeze a couple more in here that I've got. I really like Tulane -3 and Cincinnati -3 or 3.5. Love how Sorsby's playing, and don't think Houston's very good, even though they hung tough at OU. So Tulane and Cincy are two of my favorite ones, actually, in college. Tulane -3 at Louisiana.
Big card, good stuff. B, we appreciate it as always. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great weekend as well.
Ryan Edwards, you can follow him on Twitter at Vegas B. Edwards. We'll have more tomorrow on the lead up to Nebraska and Illinois, the 400 sellout. Your favorite memories of Memorial Stadium.
Oh.
Pregame show starts with this show at 6 a.m.
That's right. Wall-to-wall coverage.
6 a.m. We'll give you a full Big Ten scoreboard and everything starting at 6 a.m.
Will we?
No.
Will Coatney call in?
Yeah. We'll get the Big Ten update. We'll get the coat man.
A crossover's coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow at 6.